66 Raceway, the burnouts are beginning for our first pair of Top Fuel cars. That is Doug Herbert. Alongside is Scott Wise, and we're glad you're with us. And here is the Top Fuel ladder presented by Lucas Oil, and we've highlighted the key matchup of this first round, Doug Coletta and Larry Dixon. It'll be the 5th time they have met this year. Coletta has won 3 of the first 4 meetings. Take a look at the other side. Scott Coletta, the number 2 qualifier, and Tony Schumacher in a somewhat unfamiliar spot in the number 7 position, heading into today's final eliminations. Weather has been a factor all weekend. We got washed out yesterday in the final session of qualifying. Here's what it looks like right now.
Marty, we're looking at 71 degrees with 80% humidity. The density altitude, or the corrected altitude, is just above 2,500 feet. Track temperature, the key right there, 79 degrees.
And as we go inside towards the cockpit of Doug Herbert, and he'll line up along Scott Wise. You know, Scott has actually won more rounds this year than Doug, but Herbert and the Snap-on Tool teams with Ed the Ace McCullough turning the wrenches, coming to life here in about the last 3 races. Blower belt came off of Doug Herbert's car, costing him the win as Scott Wise recovered to take the win light, and we are underway at Route 66 Raceway. ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports, presents exclusive coverage of the $50 million NHRA Powerade Drag Racing Series. Today, the chase for the championship continues with final eliminations of the 7th running of the NHRA Route 66 Nationals from Route 66 Raceway in Joliet, Illinois, just southwest of Chicago. Hello again, everybody. Marty Reed, Mike Dunn, and in the pits, we've got Bill Stevens, Dave Reed, and Parker Johnstone. And boy, have we had a tough weekend with the weather. But whenever we've had the weather, and this is the 4th time in 8 national events when weather has either postponed or actually washed out a session, and as you well know, in Pomona, we had to come back a week later. But, Mike, every time that has happened, we've seen some stellar upsets and some outstanding performances.
Well, you know, you'd think the teams would have a handle on it by now, as many times we've been rained out the last couple of years, or delayed anyway. But I'll tell you what, I mean, the track conditions are very good here because they redid the surface on the racetrack. They kept the original 500 feet of concrete, and then from 500 feet to just past the finish line, brand new asphalt, and they ground that thing smooth, and that's why we saw the great speed we saw in Funny Car. And I think basically based on that today, we're going to see some more good runs and some great racing.
Well, we hear the 8,000 horsepower engines come to life, and there you see the points leader in Top Fuel. That is the Sarge, Tony Schumacher, and TJ Zizzo. This is a hometown event for TJ, as he'll be in the right lane. And now that the burnouts have been completed, let's talk a little bit more about the Sarge. Since Alan Johnson came on board, which was at this event 1 year ago, he has been in 21 races as a team together. They've had 6 number 1 qualifiers. Of course, he had 4 before that for a total of 10. But he's been in 10 finals and has won 8 of those events.
Well, and let's throw this out, Marty. I mean, they haven't looked real good in qualifying, and that man right there, Alan Johnson, still is not real comfortable with that new Goodyear tire. But remember, the last race, they looked great qualifying and went out first round. So with this team, anything can happen.
Let's go to Bill.
And, Mike, that was the point that I was going to make, and just to amplify that a little bit, Tony Schumacher's also a hometown kid. He won this race last year with Alan Johnson. Family and friends are here. He's got to have butterflies in his stomach. Remember, TJ Zizzo went 462 in qualifying, a very strong run. Tony cannot take him lightly.
That was a career best for TJ in that qualifying run. And you're right. I think there are a bit of butterflies in both these guys' stomach.
Yeah, and TJ Zizzo has looked very good. I mean, they came out of the box, ran a 470, and then came back and ran that 462. So they've improved on every run. If they can just go up in there and do basically the same thing as that 462, maybe improve a little bit, and Tony makes a mistake, they can definitely nail them.
Oh, you saw TJ hike the front end. And a good, solid run by Tony Schumacher. He stops the clock at 4.57 seconds, 318 miles an hour. So unlike Atlanta, where he went out in the first round, he's moving on into second round competition.
Watch TJ on the left of your screen. Right as the clutch comes in, that front end starts coming up. He did a good job to get out of the throttle, keeping it from getting any higher and causing one of those infamous blowovers.
Well, let's bring in Bill Stevens.
All right, let's talk a little bit about what we saw in Funny Car this weekend. The big speeds, just incredible, as Gary Scelzi and Tony Pedregon rewrote the record books. But don't lose sight of the fact that 5 other drivers in the qualified field went over 320 miles an hour in qualifying. And with the track conditions today, other guys could be putting up some big numbers. Dave?
Bill, when will the Team Kalita cars start winning? They've been awesome on Saturday, grabbing 6 of the 8 races' #1 qualifying spots, led by David Grubnick, the R&D driver, with 4. But on Sunday, 0-2 in the finals. Doug Kalita, the only member of that 3-car team to make it that far. But 3 of the top 4 spots belong to Team Kalita today, so they have their next best chance to change their luck. Parker Johnstone.
Dave, there's good news for the pro stock field this weekend. For the second event in a row, Greg Anderson is not the #1 qualifier. But there's bad news. The #1 qualifier, well, it's his teammate and employee, rookie Jason Line. Now #1 qualifier, looking for his first race win in this young career, Marty.
All right, thanks, guys. Those are just some of the stories that we'll be following throughout today's 3 hours of coverage here at Route 66. Now, there was a lane change. Darrell Russell had the lane choice, originally headed for the right lane, and has switched back over to the left side. So obviously Wayne Dupuis saw something in that first run that he didn't like.
Well, I think the lanes are pretty even if you can keep it in the groove. The problem with this racetrack, especially since they've redone it down track, is it's got a very narrow groove, and the drivers are really have to be on top of their game to keep it in there. We saw TJ Zissou basically he wheel stood and the car went out of the groove off to the side, and obviously had to shut off. We've seen Corey Mackey the same thing in qualifying yesterday, so that looks like it might be a characteristic of that right lane. So I think as a result he switched.
Bill?
And Mike, I think the fact that the top fuel guys didn't get 4 runs on the racetrack this weekend may have played into Wayne's decision. Knowing that he didn't get down that lane as many times as he would have liked, he probably watched that first round and saw something, adding to the fact that he didn't have enough shots at the track that made him want to switch.
Good point, Bill, because Top Fuel only had 2 qualifying sessions. The other classes had 3. You're looking at Darrell Russell, who has qualified for every race since he came on tour, 78 straight, but he's winless in his last 33. And there's the man who's gone to 3 straight finals in a row, Clay Milligan. Well, there won't be 4 straight in a row because Darrell Russell, 4.55 seconds, 315 miles an hour, and he is into second round competition for the second event in a row. We've got to take a commercial break. More first round Top Fuel when we return. Time now for this week's Powerade Power Time. And last week in Atlanta, Corey McClenathan won his 28th career race. He's 5th on the all-time Top Fuel win list, and he became the first Top Fuel driver to win in 14 races, not named Bernstein or Schumacher.
Amazed when I heard about the stats, and I'd heard people talking about that in the last couple races, and I'll tell you, everything went our way, and to be the one to basically put another name up there other than a Bernstein or a Schumacher, it's a really good feeling. Not everybody believed in us, but I do. I know how to surround myself with people. It's one thing I've learned on this jumping team thing every couple of years here is how to make people work together, and there's not always one person. It's a team group effort.
Was there ever a point when you just said, oh, the heck with this, I can't do this anymore?
Probably after the 7 years I worked for Joe Gibbs and the abrupt ending that he took, and at that point in time I thought it'd be okay, I'll just step in another car, and that wasn't the case whatsoever. There was a point in time where I thought, okay, my career's done here in drag racing and I need to step up and do something different, and to be honest with you, I wanted to be a veterinarian. That was my other thing. A lot of schooling there, but I love animals, doesn't matter what kind they are. That was probably the step I was going to take next. Right now, I'm here for as long as they'll have me here. I want to be right here with the Carrier Boys. This is where I want to finish my career.
And we will now get a chance to see Corey McClenathan come up against his old teammate from a couple of years ago, David Baca. As there is Corey Mack over in the left lane. And take a look at the graphic. When you see the names, Kenny and Brandon and Tony Schumacher, and there's Corey finally in there. How big a win was this? Not only for Corey Mack, but for all of Top Fuel.
Well, it was huge for Corey Mack and that team. I mean, it's a new team. He brought some new people on board, Todd Smith and some other people, and they really seemed to gel. And Corey really believes in this team, and I think it was just a great win for all of them.
He's number 5 on the all-time Top Fuel win list behind Joe Amato, Kenny Bernstein, Big Daddy Don Garlitz, and Larry Dixon. Parker?
Marty, I checked in with Darrell Russell's crew chief Wayne Dupuy as to why he made that last-minute lane change. He said it was the start line. He liked the look of the left lane, thought there was a little bit more grip, a little bit more traction, and that's why he made the change.
That's why he gets paid the bucks. Here we go with Corey Mack and David Baca. Corey Mack goes low for the round. 4.51 seconds, 324 miles an hour. And poor David Baca, he goes 454 and loses the race.
Well, I tell you, this was a great pass. This was just like, Corey was on a run just like this yesterday when he was in the opposite lane and it carried the front end just like TJ Zizzo and got over towards the wall and had to shut off. They came back pretty much, left the same setup on it and said, let's try to keep this thing stuck on the front end on the ground, even though it's lifting pretty good right there. Corey was still able to drive the thing, keep it in the middle of the groove, and continue through the run and made a great pass.
Look at the concentration in Larry Dixon right now. He knows what's at stake. This team is in 8th place in the points, 263 behind coming into today's action. He's up against a guy who has beaten him 3 out of 4 times that they have hooked up, Doug Coletta. And Coletta can't afford to lose this round because Tony Schumacher has already won. If he wants to keep pace in the points championship, he's got to put Dixon on the trailer. There's Don the Snake Prudhomme. This is one of those titanic struggles. We talked about the problems that this team has faced, Larry Dixon's squad, yesterday during the qualifying shows, and the biggest comment that came from Don Prudhomme in front of everybody, I mean absolutely everybody is a key player on that team. He says this team is as tight as ever. And they said, yeah, when somebody does something wrong, they get chewed out, but they got chewed out when the times were good. And right now, they are looking on getting back on track. Let's go to Bill. He's with Corey Mack.
Corey Mack did the yummy dance getting out of the car. You just smoked your old teammate, went low for the round with a 451.
Gotta love that, don't you? Todd, the guys did a great job. It was on a good run yesterday, but I had to shut it off to have the front in the air. But what a way to come back. That's awesome. You know, Dave and those guys are a great team. Johnny West, awesome guy. But for our team, that's the way to do it.
Thanks, Bill. Doug Coletta, the first of 3 Coletta cars. Think about this. You have 3 race cars. You've had 7 races. That's 21 chances to win so far. Only Doug's been to a final this year.
You know, the problem has been consistency. We talk about it all the time. They get into that tire smoke problem, but, you know, they make a lot of horsepower. If they get hooked up, they can run the big number. Larry Dixon, on the other hand, I mean, I know why Snake believes in that team. I mean, they're, you know, you can't count that man right there. Dick LaHaye, Larry Dixon, they've won. I mean, they didn't win a whole lot of races because they were lucky. I mean, they know what they're doing. It's just one of those things. They're just getting a handle on this. They've got a ways to go, but hopefully he can nail the number right now.
Out of 5, and 4.48 seconds later, at 331 miles an hour, Doug Coletta puts Larry Dixon on the trailer again. Dave Reeve.
Even Don the Snake Prudhomme has a little bit of a grin. That was a pretty tough competitor in that other lane. He threw up a good number.
Yeah, 48. I mean, that's pretty awesome. That 56 we ran, thought was just great. But, you know, that's things are getting pretty tough out here in drag racing these days.
So let's take another look at Larry Dixon. As the first time in 5 years, back to 1999, he has lost 3 first-round matchups in a row.
But boy, look at him carrying the front end, trying to keep that thing in the middle of the groove. You saw him turn that wheel to the left as it was up in the air, making sure he didn't get to the right side and causing some excessive tire spin. But still a good run for Larry Dixon, but unfortunately he came up short.
Yeah, he and David Baca are going to be able to commiserate. They both run 50s, and they lose. Bill.
Well, an amazing statistic. The last 2 years, years at this race, Larry Dixon has been in the 450s in 6 out of the 8 rounds that he's competed. But I'm telling you, a 450 is never going to beat a 448. You got 3 more of those in this car today?
I tell you, I sure hope so. This McTillis team is definitely looking forward to a good day. This is a great facility. I got Connie and Jimmo and Ron Tober behind this thing, so it's just great.
Boy, what a blast.
We were just checking back at Pomona. They had a similar race. Larry ran a 459. Guess what Doug ran? A 448. That was second round when he put him on the trailer for the first time this year. Coming up now with Brandon Bernstein and Bob Vandergrift. And we have gotten a report that doctors had to be called in for Brandon, and he is suffering from some kind of virus, some kind of flu. And we're going to be interested to see how it is going to affect him in the car. There is Kenny Bernstein. They'll be over in the left lane.
Big thing when you have the flu is you got to worry about dehydration. And luckily, it's not real warm out today, but still inside that car, even though they're only in there for a couple minutes, it's still going to affect you.
Yeah, I mean, if this was Indy or at Daytona, a NASCAR event, people would really understand this. But, it's hard for them to understand how much stress and how much fluid intake you still have to do when you're driving this machine, and you know about it.
Yeah, one of the things, when you do get dehydrated, you start losing focus, and that's the main thing you want to be when you in one of these cars. You want to be focused.
Parker?
I checked in with Brandon earlier. He had his head on the table in the hospitality area. He did not feel well at all. You mentioned hydration. The other place where that plays a role is in reaction time. The more dehydrated you are, the slower you are.
Well, Bob Vandergrift was first off the line, but boy, when you get a 447 tune-up from Tim Richards at 333.41 miles an hour, which is a career best ET for Brandon, and a very, very strong speed, that'll make you feel a lot better. There's our next matchup when we come back here to Route 66. This is round 8 of the NHRA Powerade Drag Racing Series, and it's time for Scott Coletta, the second bullet in the Coletta team arsenal, to go up against Brady Calavoda. Scott will be in the left lane, Brady over in the right lane.
Well, Scott Coletta, they really feel good coming off Atlanta. They ran that 455 in the first round to take out Schumacher and made 2 good runs in qualifying. Both crew chief Jim Oberhofer, that man right there, Connie Coletta, feel good about the race car. They think they're getting this car going in the right direction, and based on the numbers that they've had from Atlanta's eliminations and qualifying, the car looks very good. This is only Scott's 3rd trip ever to Chicago. He has never gotten out of first round before. Calavoda's deep. Well, he's out of first round now. 4.50 seconds later, 332 miles an hour. And Scott Coletta, for the first time in Chicago, takes a round win. And as he coasts on out, let's find out how Brandon Bernstein's feeling, Bill.
Yep, he's a little shaky physically, but this might perk you up. You could have a new national top speed record if you back up your 333. But, in 2001, your dad ran 447.7 here to set the new national record. You just did the same elapsed time.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that, and, that's great. Tim and Kim and these guys, they worked really hard this weekend, and with all the rain and everything, that first round, we saw cars going down there real quick and fast, but, our car left so hard, the Budweiser Lucas Oil car left so hard, and it made a little move towards the center line, but, that finish line comes real fast when they're going that fast. It's amazing. I love it when they do that.
You don't look sick now.
No, I feel good now.
It's amazing how winning will cure everything. Back at the starting line, we get ready now for the #1 qualifier and the 3rd member of Team Coletta, David Grubnick. Mike Strasburg has the unenviable task of trying to put Aussie Dave on the trailer. That will be a tough task indeed, Marty, because I know it's an R&D car, but this car just keeps amazing me because it could be one of those things where, Connie Coletta just says, hey, obviously we're trying things, but he's obviously more aggressive with this car a lot of times to see what the track will hold. And a lot of times, more often than not, it seems like that thing sticks. Problem is on race day when they do that, then they do have a tendency to maybe spin the tires in the later rounds. But I'll tell you, the track conditions right now are really ripe for a great run here. Well, let's give Mike Strasburg a little tip of the hat here because he has had some success at this racetrack. Back in 2001 in Top Alcohol Dragster competition, he was runner-up to one guy named Brandon Bernstein. So he does know how to wheel the car. Doesn't have as big a budget as Team Coletta, but that's why we run the race, as we found out last week in Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, he only comes out for a few races every year, but he came right out of the box, ran a 4.69 that initial session on Friday, which was a very good run. So obviously you can't count anybody out, and you also can't count Mike Strasburg.
Well, you saw Strasburg do a wheel stand. He had to get out of it. And Grubnick, boy, he matches Scott's time, 4.5 seconds, 327 miles an hour.
Watch Mike Strasburg, left side of your screen. He's going to get out of the throttle when it starts going to tire shake, and then when he gets back into it, it's just going to lift the front end, because what happens there is the clutch grabs the engine, instead of slipping the clutch like it's supposed to be, and the track conditions are so good, it just sends that car skyward.
Top Fuel Ladder presented by Lucas Oil. David Grubnick and Doug Coletta have lane choice on the left side. Over on the right, Scott Coletta and Brandon Bernstein. So a good first round of Top Fuel. Can Funny Car be as good? Absolutely. And there is Brandon heading back to the pits. They'll go to work. They got 75 minutes to do the turnaround. First round of floppers when we come back. We're back at Route 66, and you're looking at young Eric Medlin as we're getting ready for first round of Funny Car action. Take a look at our Funny Car Ladder, as it also presented by Lucas Oil, and some great, interesting matchups. Force and Burkhardt, man, it seems like they are becoming the best of friends. Forget that. They've just been meeting a lot on the racetrack. And for the second week in a row, Bazemore and Capps are going to square off in the opening stanza. So as these two back up, it'll be Eric Medlin over in the left lane. And let's take a look at a very eventful rookie season for young Eric. If you remember back at the semifinals at the Phoenix, he was very tardy off the line. And then as we went to Gainesville, who could forget this wild ride? He even got sideways before crossing the center line. And if that wasn't enough of a learning experience, then it was Bristol. Jerry Tolliver got an eyeful of the Castrol Syntec Mustang. Then the chutes deployed early at Atlanta, but in the last 3 events, he has had the closest finishes, winning all 3 of those. Just an incredible rookie campaign, and here we are in round 8.
Yeah, I think since that incident in Bristol where he crossed the center line, he's looked very good. I mean, he seems much more relaxed in the race car. He hasn't made any big mistakes. The chute coming out of Atlanta, I don't think that was a mechanical thing. I don't think that was a mistake on his driver part, but he's looking much better right now.
You saw John Force looking on. He'll be upcoming with his matchup with Phil Burkhardt. Here we go against Jeff Aren and Eric Medlin. Good drag race, and Eric stops the clock 4.81 seconds later at 317 miles an hour.
Boy, that was a good drag race. I mean, Jeff Aren had basically 0.03 of a second off of the starting line, and Eric Medlin, with that John Medlin horsepower, was able to drive around. Let's go on board with Eric and see how he was wheeling this thing down the lane, because remember, narrow groove, the driver's really got to react good. Keep that thing in the middle of the lane. Look at that thing. You see the groove out there? It starts moving over towards the center. See how he's moving that thing back and forth, keeping it right down the center. We talk about, it's just going down a straight line. Well, let me tell you something. He's in there sawing on the wheel, and I guarantee you that wheel's not kept straight all the way down the racetrack.
And let's put a period on Top Fuel, Bill.
David Grubnick, at the top of the show, he mentioned that the 3 Coletta cars have not been able to combine for victory this year. You all won in the first round with the second, third, and fourth quickest elapsed times.
Yeah, well, the victory's coming, and that's not necessarily true. I know my car, I honestly felt we would have won Bristol if I didn't red light second round away. So, you have to take that into consideration as well. But, we're looking forward to this. It's like I have to thank Conrad. He's the one that made all this happen for me, and this is fantastic. There's a bunch of people, Mac Tools, Redline Oil, Technicoat, Ron Molliomo. There's a bunch of people, man, and I'm thrilled to bits, and I really appreciate their support.
Maybe today's the day.
And if you're just tuning in, we're at Route 66 for the Route 66 Nationals. It's round 8 of the NHRA Powerade Drag Racing Series. I'm Marty Reed, Mike Dunn, Bill Stevens, Dave Reed, Parker Johnstone, and our entire ESPN2 crew. We're glad you're along with us. You're looking at Gary Dencham. This is first round action in Funny Car. And Bob Bodie is over in the right lane. While this is going on out on the track, let's go back into the pits. Check in with Parker.
Marty, Brandon Bernstein's Budweiser Lucas Top Fueler has been in the pits now exactly 3 minutes. This crew led by the husband and wife team of Tim and Kim Richards. Little known fact that Kim, well, it's known to us, but maybe not the fans at home, that Kim is the daughter of Larry Dixon's crew chief, Dick LaHaye. She in her own right, a very accomplished crew chief and lead mechanic. You can see the whole top of the engine has come off. The cylinder heads have come off. We'll be checking in with Brandon to see how he's feeling in just a little while, Marty.
She wasn't too bad of a driver either in her day. Get back to this battle because the last time Bob Bodie and Gary Dencham hooked up, Bodie dumped him in an upset. And I'm sure that Gary remembers it. That was back at Pomona, last race of the season, 2003.
Yeah, Bob Bodie, he was on a wild ride yesterday when he ran that 485. It was lifting the front end up in the air about 400 feet, and he hung on to make that great pass.
Bill? And remember, Gary Dencham, until recently, the fastest funny car in the sport. We're talking about big speeds in this category. We've seen what Eric Medlin and his teammate did. Maybe he can put one down.
Well, he runs 326 miles an hour, which is a very good speed, but now we're up over 330 if you want a shot at the record book. 479, though, is a very, very strong elapsed time, as Bob Bodie was not a factor. There is the next matchup. Number 1 qualifier, Tony Pedregon against Jerry Tolliver. There's the Shrek 2 machine, and boy, did Shrek go for a ride Friday night. Let's take you back as Tony Pedregon went the quickest and fastest ever, 4.71 seconds. Watch the numbers, 331 miles an hour. Now, here's the ET that he has to back up. He runs 476 or quicker. He picks up the national ET record, currently held by John Forrest, and 20 bonus points. For the speed mark, he has to go quicker or faster than 327.96 miles an hour, and he would hold that as well. He's never held a national record in all the years that he drove for John Force.
That's a big surprise, as stout as that car was in its day. But I'll tell you, he would like to get the speed record, but that ET record, like you said, Marty, the extra 20 points, that's the key. That's what he's looking for.
And that man right there isn't getting enough credit. Dickie Venables is doing a heck of a job with that car. Now it's eating itself up, and no record here, but Tony will get the win over Jerry Tolliver. 4.99 seconds, and you can see by the speed there on the screen at only 279. Let's go back and take a look.
Tony was on a heck of a run, but we've been talking about keeping it in the groove. Now, watch what's going to happen. The car is going to move over towards the center of the lane, and as it gets over there, gets out of the good rubber, starts to spin the tires, and he backpedals, gets back on it. But at that point, it's still spinning the tires, slowed the car down considerably, but lucky enough for Tony, they did get the win.
So as we get ready for Whit Bazemore and Ron Capps, if you were with us for NHRA today, you heard us talk about a bizarre trend involving event winners in the last 4 national events. We'll talk more about that as we get ready for Whit Bazemore and Ron Capps. Whit Bazemore snapped out of his funk last weekend in Atlanta. He beat teammate Gary Scelzi to move into the number 2 spot in funny car points. And he won this race last year, and he's hoping for a little deja vu. But he's going to have to beat this, well, I don't want to call it a hex, but in each of the last 4 funny car races, the winner has gone on to lose in the very next event in round number 1. So if that holds true, Ron Capps is on his way to round 2. And as the burnouts are completed, let's go talk to Tony Pedregon. He's with Bill.
Well, if the top speed record was 280, you would have backed it up, but you had some problems out there.
A little bit. I'm almost certain that it probably had a cylinder out. It was only firing on 7 cylinders. The one that goes out, it usually steers to that direction. And I didn't really hear him, and I hate to get out of the throttle, but had her cock cranked all the way to the left, and it just wasn't going. So first time this team Quaker Tate, snap-on Bendix brakes, caught a brake, and boy, we could use it. It came at a good time, and I think we still have good conditions. And that record's out there, but it's more important to win.
Jerry Tolliver could have stuck the fork in him, but couldn't do it.
Thanks, Bill. As we focus back now on this one, remember, every race week you can get caught up with Ron Capps in his diary that he has on ESPN.com. And the one thing I know he doesn't want to do is have to write about 2 weeks in a row losing to Witt in round number 1.
Yeah, that wouldn't be good. I mean, they did run the 487 in their final qualifying session, and on that particular run, it looked like he backpedaled the car a little bit. In other words, it started to spin the tires. He caught it, got to recover, did an excellent job still to run a 487. So that tells you the car has a lot more in it as long as he can get hooked up into the other end.
Well, Bays blazed to his all-time fastest speed this weekend in qualifying, 329. But he just missed kissing the 330 mark as well as his teammate Gary Selzy, who set the national record. Man, this was a lot closer than it probably should have been. Bazemore, 4.85 seconds. The speed down at 312. I know that doesn't sound like it should be very slow, but the way this car's been thundering, 312, you could tell it was having a little bit of a problem. But it's good enough that he breaks that jinx of 4 races in a row that we talked about. Take another look at Ron Capps as he's on the trailer again. Back here at Route 66, you want to see the frustration when you're 12th in funny car points and you just can't seem to buy a win? That is Ron Capps right at the end of his run. Let's go talk to him. He's with Bill.
Kind of a strange situation. Oil discovered on the racetrack after Jerry Tolliver's run, Ron, but you seem to think that wasn't a factor.
Maybe. Like I told you off camera here, it just blew him off kind of for that reason. It was moving around a little bit, but I'm embarrassed, man. Scholes used to be in number 1 in what they do, and same as Chevrolet. We're stinking this place up. And not on purpose, man. The guys are trying hard, but we had 8 races now. First round, loss at all but 1, but I mean, what do you do? I don't know what else to do. It's tough out here, but I don't know what to do.
We're told now that the oil that was on the racetrack was off the surface, out of the groove.
Yes, and Jerry Tolliver was penalized 10 points, $1,500. And for the second week in a row, the entire Dom Prudhomme racing team is out of here in round number 1. Tommy Johnson did not qualify. Larry Dixon and Ron Capps is out of here in round 1 action. That seems unbelievable. In fact, take a look at this. This is just the funny car side coming into today's action. Total round wins. Team Force with 27. CSK squad has 23. Don Schumacher's team, 21, and then it drops down to Tony and Cruz with 7, and there is Don Prudhomme's camp with only 3. And that stuns both of us, I know.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, you see Ron Capps and the emotion. That's why he is driving for Don Prudhomme, because he doesn't like to lose. You never want to hire somebody that's okay with losing, so they'll get that team turned around.
Well, you're looking at the fastest man in funny car right now, and his name is Gary Selzy, 330.55 miles an hour. Tony Bartone has the unenviable task of trying to outrun him here in round 1. And Bartone does it. He sticks it to a 482. 310 miles an hour. That's a career best elapsed time for Tony. What a time to pull it, because Gary Selzy overpowers the racetrack and goes up in smoke.
Well, Marty, you talked about it in the opener. An upset right here. Gary Selzy, big surprise there. Tony Bartone, I'll tell you, that car was really marked in the first 1/8 of a mile. 260 mile an hour at the 8th mile. I mean, it slowed down to 310. Otherwise, that would have well been in a high 470 run. But look at our Gary Selzy there as he backpedals, tries to get the thing back hooked up, picks the front end up. At that point, he sees that Tony Bartone is long gone and his day is done.
Let's go to Dave Reef.
Even Larry Dixon very surprised by the most recent developments. He says that's why it's called drag racing. But it's been a tough 3-week stretch for you guys. 2-time champs. I know you're not used to it.
It's been a tough season so far. You know, we're runs behind. You know, I mean, everybody that went back to the setback blower and all that last year. And, you know, we're a lot of runs behind. And when you lose sessions to, you know, oil downs or even the weather and things like that, it just makes it tough. You can't catch up if you ain't getting runs on the track. So, you know, as it's been the last 3 weeks, we seem to make our best runs first round and run alongside a good drivers.
Awful rare to see this car packing up so early, guys. Parker?
Dave in the pits of Brandon Bernstein. The guy's been working now 18 minutes and 30 seconds. The clutch has been assembled. The can's back on. The motor is going back together. The right cylinder head is on. Bottom of the engine has been serviced. Bearings replaced or checked. Front of the car, well, Tim Richards has taken her husband. Kim Richards has taken Tim's setup, has now put it in the timers, and Bill, these guys are trying to get this turnaround in less than 75 minutes because with the impending weather, they've got to be ready just as soon as they can.
Well, down here with Tony Bartone, former alcohol funny car champion, and that was the best run you've ever made in a nitro car, a 482, Tony, and you took out the national record holder.
Well, Bill, I got to commend this K&N Lucas Oil team for doing a fantastic job. Everybody's working hard. You know, we struggled a little bit at the beginning of the year. The car's really coming around, and our efforts are paying off.
Hitman does his job.
Yeah, you could hear the hooping and holler at the far end. Take a look at Bob Gilbertson's numbers, as this is his best qualifying effort of 2004, the number 11 spot. That's how big of a struggle it is. And Dale Worsham, big round here because Whit Bazemore has already won. John Force is yet to come. He wants to maintain that points lead.
You know, Dell and his father Chuck, they like this racetrack also, but you know, we've seen a couple cars in that left-hand lane get into a little bit of tire smoke. They need to get it stuck.
Crosses the center line, and for the second week in a row, Gilbertson took out Tony Pedregon last week in the first round at Atlanta. Here he takes out Del Worsham. And this has huge implications for the points.
Another big upset. We're seeing this in the left-hand lane. The cars are launching towards the center line, and they're getting out of the groove. And you know that, you know, Del Worsham, let's watch see if there's a cylinder out on the left side. Yeah, you see it go out, but he was already heading in that direction when the cylinder went out. So when that happened, it just drove the car over the center line as much as he could do. If you can see it on this side of the screen, I don't know if we'll be able to see it from this angle. Right there, the cylinder goes out. Well, it's after he backpedaled. Well, then that kept the momentum going over there as you see him taking out the timing blocks.
And this is a still shot from our cone camera, and I can tell you it did not survive. We've got to take commercial break. Hey, there's a great-looking young fan. We're at Route 66 Raceway, and Gary Denson's giving an autograph. Back here at Route 66, we have just seen the points leader, Del Worsham, take out the blocks and disqualify himself, and there's the winner. That is Bob Gilbertson. Let's go to Bill.
Yeah, I'd be happy, too. You used everything but table magic to get to the semis in Atlanta a week ago, and you haven't run out of tricks yet, have you?
Yeah, you know, Trick Tank goes along with the whole deal there. But, hey, the Lizard car looks like it's a brand-new car. It's going to work good. We got the best clutches in the world with the Bonnefonts, and we got the best wheels, Weld wheels, Goodyear tires, Powerade. Hey, I don't get a chance to talk much, but I got to thank everybody when I get the chance. But Del Worsham's my friend. So's Chuck. We like to beat them, though, every once in a while when we get that chance. It's been a long time, probably since 1991 since that's happened. So.
Friday night, he dedicated his burnout to a youngster with muscular dystrophy, Kevin Perry, and I got to believe that Kevin may be his good luck charm this weekend.
Yes, young Kevin, 7 years old, had very wide eyes on Friday evening as we get ready for Cruz Pedregon in the Advance Auto Parts Monte Carlo, and Tim Wilkerson in the Levi Ray and Shout Monte Carlo. Time now for Tractionary, brought to you by Toyota. Get the feeling.
Well, we hear crew chiefs and drivers every once in a while talk about a drop valve. That's when an intake or an exhaust valve breaks free from the valve spring retainer and actually drops into the cylinder. Now, if it's an exhaust valve, usually the car will continue to the finish line with some damage, obviously, in that combustion chamber. But if it breaks the intake valve, then it fires the fuel in that manifold and launches the supercharger off, and that's the end of that run.
All right, let's talk a little bit about what we've seen in the left lane. You pointed out the guys are going towards the center line. Bill has reported to us that the crosswind left to right. That's Tim Wilkerson's radio, as you can hear them talking, giving him instructions. But that doesn't come into play until they come out of the grandstands, which is just before half track. And it'll be interesting to see where Tim Wilkerson lines up.
Yeah, well, it seems like the cars are making the move as soon as they hit the throttle. Obviously, the crosswind will play into it. If they're already over that point, as they try to bring it back, it's going to be a problem. Well, if I'm a driver now and I see all them cars out there, my crew chief would probably tell me the same thing. He would tell me, lean that when you go into stage, just turn the wheel and lean the car towards the wall just a little bit. So hopefully if the front end's on the ground, or when it does come on the ground after the launch, it'll put you over to the left side of that groove rather than get off into the middle like we've seen other cars do.
Wilkerson 4th place right now. Has seen the points leader to go out. He can close the gap as well with a win here over Cruz. And he does. 4.84 seconds later.
4:3:10, Dan. Nice lap. Nice handling job down there. She was moving around some.
Yes, she was.
Put a hole out down there. What do you?
Now, he talked about putting a hole out, so that means he dropped the cylinder. Just exactly what we were talking about in the traction area. And take another look at his run.
Yeah, let's see if we can tell what happened here. I mean, he did, like he said, he did a great job keeping this thing in the middle of the lane. Just past half track, the thing did start to move around. If a cylinder goes out, it'll drive the car one way or another, and the driver's got a wreck. But up to that point, that thing was really stuck. Then it starts moving towards the center right there. Then you see the cylinder go out, and that's what drove the car towards the wall right at the end of the run.
And as they push the cars off of the track, there's Whit Bazemore and Dave Reef. He's within 28 points of the lead right now.
That's exactly right, Marty. And with the joining the Bays Craze fans joining in right now, there's not one person at this track in this state in this country to tell you what you already know.
And what's that?
You know all about it. The potential is there once again.
Yeah, well, you know, there's always potential, and we're just trying to run the Matco Tools Dodge the best we can and not pay too much attention right now to what everyone else is doing. But I guess Worsham had some bad luck and is out. That certainly helps our cause. Yeah, I think our car had a cylinder or two out as well. I don't know. I haven't looked at the computer yet with Lee, but guys are doing a great job, and we're just trying to go one round at a time. You know, Caps is tough, and they're struggling, but man, you know, when you go to bed at night and you look at the first round ladder, you want to see someone over the Caps.
Thank you, Dave. As we come back out trackside, here is John Force and Phil Burkhart. And John has to keep pace now if he wants to stay with the other 2 and 4 in the points. So let's get more on John, though, as we went rapid fire with him earlier this weekend.
What's the worst job you ever had?
Bagging cream pies.
What's your lucky number?
5.
Who was your hero growing up?
Babe Ruth, probably.
What's worse, kissing your grandmother or Austin Coyle? Name one thing about you that drag racing fans don't know.
I hate fish hooks.
Why do you hate fish hooks?
Because Bazemore said he likes fishing.
Well, I'll tell you what, he won't go fishing with Phil Burkhart either, because these guys have met 4 times prior this year, and Phil has won 3 of them. He's really becoming a pain in his derriere, shall we say?
That's a nice way to put it, but you know, you're right. Phil Burkhart definitely is not afraid of John Force, or is that entire Worsham team. You know, this is always a great matchup when these 2 cars come to the line.
Force runs 483, 311 miles an hour, wins this by, about a fender length over Phil Burkhart, and takes the win light. And in the 5th matchup, John picks up his 2nd win against Phil Burkhart and Team CSK.
What a great race. Identical reaction times for both drivers. And Phil Burkhart, man, he was lifting the front end up as the clutch stages were coming. Watch on the left side of your screen. Right about there, that thing's bobbling that front end, trying to stay in it. John Force drops the cylinder at the other end, but he gets a win by that much, 0.02 of a second difference. Look at this. I mean, this was a great drag race. I mean, John Force, this car looked good. It was stuck to the ground. You don't see the front end bouncing off the up in the air, but you see the cylinder out over there, just about half track, slowed the car down, but he kept it in the middle of the lane and got the win.
As you take a look at the matchups, I'm going to talk about the points, because right now, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, I mean, they're all within 67 points. And in fact, if you go to the top 7, it's under 100. So Del Worsham could lose the points lead by the end of today. Let's go to the far end. Bill.
John Force is barraging me with questions down here. What did run? Do I have lane choice? But hey, yes to both.
Hey, all I need now is an MB&A card. Bottom line, you got to get your motivation up there. You got to get pumped up. And my mind kept going ahead to Petragon. Great kid, love him, ran great this weekend. I got a job to do here for Ford and Castrol. And bottom line, I want a shot at him. We taught him, want to see how good he is, and I know he's good.
Oh, good luck, Tony.
Yeah, and that's the big matchup next round. The old teammates will get together, and we come back. It'll be time for the factory hot rods. Time now for the factory hot rods and Pro Stock. And you know, Greg Anderson is looking to set NHRA history with his 6th straight win, but Chicago's not been kind to him. In the last 3 races at Route 66, Greg has gone turtle during qualifying. Then in the spring last year, he broke in the semifinals, wasn't even able to make the run. And last fall, he fouls out to Jeg Coughlin in the finals by 1/1000th of a second, giving Jeg the win. And if you're just tuning in, we want to welcome you to Route 66, and it's round 8 of the NHRA Powerade Drag Racing Series. Over $1 million on the line today, $50 million for the year. I'm Marty Reed, along with Mike Dunn, Bill Stevens, Dave Reef, and Parker Johnstone. Here's our Pro Stock ladder presented by Lucas Oil. And we've got some great matchups here in the opening round. There's one, Jeg Coughlin and Mark Powick. They haven't met in a couple of years, believe it or not. And there is the key one, as Greg Anderson, for the 2nd race in a row, is not on pole. Well, he still won the last one, and he might win this one. But we've got some great Pro Stock action coming your way. And first up, it'll be Bruce Allen and Steve Johns, the numbers 8 and 9 qualifiers.
And Bruce Allen's been making some very good runs. They seem to have that car run very consistent. But Steve Johns, he's improved on all 4 of his qualifying passes.
Well, Bruce Allen won this race in 2002. Remember, that was the year when we had like 9 different racers win at the beginning of the year. He was the first repeat winner that year, and look what's happened since. It's now funny car that's like Pro Stock used to be. Oh, trouble in the left lane. And Stevie Johns goes 6.84 seconds at 2:02 to take the win light. And Bruce Allen is out of here. Let's check in with Parker.
Marty, it's been 37 minutes since Brandon Bernstein's Top Fuel car arrived in the pits. It's nearly done, ready for the next round of eliminations. But are you ready? How do you drive 333 miles an hour with the flu?
Well, it's a little bit tough, but, you know, it's an adrenaline deal. Once you get in that car and you're strapped in and you're ready to go, this Budweiser Lucas Oil car flew that run, and it was just a lot of fun to drive. And you don't even think about being sick then.
You have problems at the starting line being dehydrated?
No, not really, just because, you know, I drink a lot of water throughout the day and everything. And, you know, we got that Powerade, so, you know, we'll just keep drinking that and we'll be fine.
Adrenaline's got him riding the wave, Marty.
All right, thanks, Parker. Get him a lot of that Powerade. That's, the guys would love that, I'm sure. Larry Morgan, Ricky Smith coming up next to the line. And as we get ready for 2 old veterans, we should point out that round win by Stevie Johns, that was his first ever as a Pro Stock competitor. These guys have gone down the track quite an awful lot in their careers, but believe it or not, they haven't raced each other side by side in 4 years.
And that's kind of a little bit of a surprise there, but, you know, Larry Morgan, coming off that #1 qualifying last week and runner-up finish in Atlanta, he doesn't seem to have the horsepower that he had last week. He's made good runs, but not great runs, qualifying in the #7 position.
Yeah, he went to the runner-up spot at Atlanta last year. You know, if we look back in the book, the first time these guys met was Denver 15 years ago. Big advantage for Ricky off the line. And it is going to translate into a whole shot win. He ran 6.86 seconds to the quicker but losing 6.84 of Larry Morgan. And let's check in now with Dave Reef.
Well, we started the day, Marty, asking when the Kalitta cars were finally going to win. I can tell you this much after talking with Ron Tobler, the crew chief on Doug Kalitta's car that had low ET of round 1. Jim Oberhofer for Scott Kalitta and John Oberhofer for David Grubnick. All 3 of their setups are very, very conducive to this racetrack. Everything is coming to the Kalittas today. And, Marty, I think it's worth pointing out, the start of the day, they had a 3-16 chance. That number's down to 3-8. Percentages are getting better.
And we will find out. Second round of Top Fuel action still to come as we come back out trackside. Get ready for the Professor, Warren Johnson, over in the left lane. We always refer to it driver's left, driver's right. Mike Edwards in the Young Life. Grand Am in the right lane.
You know, Mike Edwards is considered one of the best drivers in the business, and really good on the lights, and he's very good. He understands pretty much everything about the race car. I mean, as far as the clutch setup, the chassis setups and everything, he's just really a hands-on kind of guy.
One of the biggest surprises, talking about Warren Johnson, as we look at the year so far. He's only been to one final. That was at Pomona at the beginning of the season. Since then, he's not gotten out of the second round, and he's lost in first round 3 times, and he's in 7th in the points. And I don't think any of us expected that from WJ.
No, I sure didn't. But it almost seems like he's in test mode now. Like the car is pretty inconsistent. Usually that's an indication that he's trying a lot of different things to try to get some information to really get a handle on that car.
Red light, Edwards. Warren's out of first round. 6.84 seconds later, 2:02. WJ is going to face either Kenny Koretsky or his son, Kurt Johnson, in the second round as he coasts it on out. Mike Edwards' light, it was very red, 0.044. Now let's go back and take a look and see what happened to Mike Edwards.
Well, it looks like it didn't really matter because shortly after he launched, we see some pieces come off the car. Oh, yeah, it definitely broke something in the drive line. Oh, and there's a drive shaft coming right out of the back of that car. Wow.
So now we come back to the starting line. Get ready for Jake Coughlin against Mark Powick. A couple of guys that, believe it or not, haven't raced each other in over 2 years. And I don't know what kind of chances Mark has when you look at Jake's record at this particular facility. I mean, in the last 3 years, that's it. 11-1. I should say the last 3 races because we run twice a year here in Chicago. He has gone to every final in those 3 races, won 2 of them. And there are his numbers for qualifying.
I mean, that 11-1, that's Greg Anderson kind of numbers. But you look at his qualifying numbers, he did struggle. They had some engine problems on Friday. They got that fixed and made 2 very good runs yesterday. So I'm sure Jakey feels pretty confident about his odds today.
There you see Mark Powick's numbers. What's interesting about Mark is he's had you talk about a roller coaster season. Every other race he has qualified for, and the odd races he has missed. He has DNQ'd on those off weekends, and he's got to try and break that string. He's going to try and put Jeg on the trailer right now. The starting line advantage was Mark Powick's.
2:01.07.
Jeg Sr. likes it.
I can tell you that right now.
6.85. You heard the numbers. Jeg is in the second round. Let's take a commercial break as he coasted on out. We've still got more coming your way in Pro Stock and, of course, Pro Stock Bike. We're back here at round 8 of the NHRA Powerade Drag Racing Series at Route 66 Raceway, and we are in first round action of the Factory Hot Rods and Pro Stock. And we have got Jason Line and Troy Coughlin coming to the line. Jason, of course, the #1 qualifier. Troy, well, he has qualified for the last few races, breaking that drought that he had earlier in the year, but he's got a tough job here. He has done it, though, once before where he upset the #1 qualifier starting in the number 16 position, but that was 8 years ago at Phoenix against WJ. And let's talk about the rookie, Jason Line.
Good, right and little.
If you were voting today, we talked about this before, with what's been going on with Eric Medlin and Jason Line, who would you vote for Rookie of the Year?
Well, at this point, I would have to go with Jason Line. He just seems to be getting more comfortable and a lot better in that car, and he wasn't bad to start out with.
The former stock champion. He'll be in the left lane, and here we go. 6.85 seconds, 199 miles an hour. A little down on the speed for Jason, but boy, his reaction time. Do you know that's the exact identical light that he cut in the final last week against his teammate, Greg Anderson? So consistency, a sign for him as we get ready now for Kurt Johnson to come to the line against Kenny Koretsky, Captain Chaos. You're on board with Kurt Johnson. He is the defending event winner here. He'll be over in the right lane. The only other guy who's won a race this year in Pro Stock besides Greg Anderson. Now, let's take you back. We had an onboard camera system set up so that you could see the foot and hand action.
Yeah, you saw him, basically let the clutch out, and then he just starts running through the gears. They don't push the clutch back in to shift. It's just basically forward and back as it goes from first all the way to fifth gear. They got the shift light up there, so he knows when to hit the shift points just right at the right RPM. And when you do that, you make the perfect run. Hopefully get a great ET slip.
And we've got to give Captain Chaos a tip of the hat. This is his highest qualifying effort ever. I mean, in 149 pro stock attempts, he's number 3. And it'll be interesting to see if he can put Kurt out of this event in round number 1. They have been getting better. He showed a lot of sign of life last weekend, and especially here as well. Kurt Johnson, one of 2 guys who so far this year has not lost in first round. Guess who the other is? And if you guess anybody else besides Greg Anderson, you're wrong. Red light, Koretsky. He took a shot. That's his second foul of 2004 by 6/1000th of a second. Kurt runs 6:88, and Kenny's going to kick himself because he threw away a quicker run. He actually ran quicker than Kurt at 6.87 seconds. But when you go red, it's all over.
Not the kind of run KJ was looking for. Let's see if we can see a little bit of tire shake there. I don't see a whole lot. It might be a situation where it just didn't have enough clutch in the car to get the car moving through that point. Because there definitely wasn't a whole lot of tire shake, just maybe it was just under clutched.
And he will not have lane choice against his father, Warren Johnson, in the second round. And that'll bring us now to Greg Anderson. And we talk about tracks with no wins. He got Atlanta off of his back last week. Can he do it here at Chicago? In his 3rd full season in pro stock, he still has to win at those facilities. And we documented a little bit earlier all the troubles he has had in the last 3 times we've visited here. But look at this. I mean, this is just, we're doing the math, and he could win at this pace well over 80 rounds of racing by season's end.
Yeah, that's an unbelievable record. That's kind of stuff I used to dream about. And I didn't think anybody'd be able to do that kind of, have that kind of record. But I'll tell you what, I mean, you've got that kind of horsepower. I mean, he's basically been running 3 to 500ths of a second quicker than the next closest guy for most of the year. And when you can do that in pro stock, that's a mile.
Well, he's 12 rounds ahead of in racing. So in essence, he could not show up for 3 events and probably still have the points lead. Say goodnight, Mark. Air to spare. 6.81 seconds, 202 miles an hour. That is low for this first round of eliminations. And Greg Anderson says, okay, guys, here I am. Come and get me.
Let's look at this. I mean, this could be any run he's made this year. I mean, this thing is just always perfect. A little bit of tire shake at the top of the gears, nothing bad, but obviously they had the right setup on there to run that kind of number. I mean, basically 3 or 4 hundreds quicker than everybody else. He also did his job on the tree, an 0.29 light. I mean, you put that together, and that's why he has the record that he has at this point.
Of course, Greg Anderson will be one of our participants in the King Demon Crown next week, and the other one will be Dave Conley, and there he is, the young 21-year-old. So he's going to have to think about it for a whole nother week. But I'll tell you what, this kid has been so good, I don't think he's going to have a problem sleeping at all. He's got Jim Yates in this round of action. Jim will be over in the left lane. And of course, Jim Yates was the runner-up here at Chicago back in 2001. And these two have met earlier this year. That was back at Phoenix in round 2, where Conley put Yates on the trailer. And as far as Jim's testing program, well, they have been working on the clutch setup, and they think they've made some very strong gains. As far as Mr. Conley, well, his one Super Comp win came here at this track in 2002. Both cars pre-stage. Who's going to go in first? Yates playing a little game with Conley. Here we go. Red light, Yates. Well, youth will be served. I think Jim was trying to get into his head, and it backfired maybe. I don't know. We'll have to ask him later. But 6.83 seconds later, Dave Conley has got himself into the second round. As we take a look at the ladder in Pro Stock presented by Lucas Oil, it'll be Steve Johns with the lane choice over Jason Line, Dave Conley over Dave Coughlin, over in the other side, Greg Anderson and WJ have the lane choice there. When we come back, we'll have all the action for you from first round in Pro Stock Bike here at Route 66. All right, let's take a look at the Pro Stock Bike Ladder presented by Lucas Oil, and we've highlighted the matchup with Angel Savoy and Chip Hunter because if Angel can march her way and win this race today, it would be 3 times in a row here at Chicago. Here is the other side of the equation. As you can see, arrow indicates who has the lane choice as the 2 Harleys qualified 1 and 2. All right, let's show you what happened in round number 1 of Pro Stock Bike. First up, it will be Andrew Hines in the right lane and Blaine Hale in the left. And no contest really on this one. Andrew goes low ET of the race, 7.15 seconds, 187 miles an hour. Next, it would be Steve Johnson and Antron Brown. Antron in the left lane gets the benefit of a red light by Steve Johnson. Antron would go on to a 7.20 elapsed time at 181. Then it would be up to Craig Treble and Karen Stover. Karen, you know about her engine problems, and boy, it was very sluggish here. Treble takes an easy win, 7.21 seconds, and drops Stover from 3rd to 5th in the championship chase in 1 round of racing. Angel Savoy then comes up. She goes 7.18 seconds to put Chip Hunter on the trailer, 188 miles an hour. And let's go back and take another look.
One of the things you got to worry about is that crosswind when they come past the grandstands. You know, the riders have been leaning the bike, but Angel did a good job. Keep that thing upright.
Next up is Scott Valetti against GT Thomas. Valetti in his first round of Pro Stock Bike competition. Well, it's going to be his last for a while. GT goes 7.17 seconds at 186 miles an hour. Valetti gave it all he could at 7.28, just not enough run. Then Michael Phillips, for the second time in his career, cuts a perfect light and takes Fred Collis with a 7.23 elapsed time at 185 miles an hour. Next up, watch Scally. Gino in the left lane was snoozing. A 152 light. He gets buried in a huge hole shot. He runs the second quickest ET of the round, a 7.16, and loses. 7.26 the elapsed time for Mike Berry, and there's the margin of victory at the stripe. And Berry will go up against Sean Gann because Gann takes advantage of Dave Fazell snoozing on the 3rd Harley in the field. A 7.20 to a 7.42, not much of a contest as Sean moves in the 2nd round. Take a look at the matchups. Andrew Hines, Angel Savoy have the lane choice on one side. On the other, it's GT Tonglet and Sean Gann. So we've got to take another commercial break. Stay with us. More coming up from Route 66. Well, we have got some drama building back in the pits involving John Force's team. They are thrashing like crazy. They went to do the warm-up, and they are in trouble. And their next round is against their former teammate, Tony Pedregon. As we come out onto the track, it's time for 2nd round of Top Fuel. We'll keep you posted on what happens with Team Force. Is this going to be Houston all over for them again? Well, we'll find out. Here is our Top Fuel Ladder presented by Lucas Oil, and David Grubnick and Doug Coletta have the lane choice on the left side. Over on the opposite side, Scott Coletta in a rematch with Tony Schumacher from last week, and Brandon Bernstein over Darrell Russell. In fact, it'll be that Scott and Tony rematch coming to the line first, as Tony's going to be in the right lane, Scott in the left lane. This was first round last week at Atlanta, and Scott put him out.
Yeah, this is a good matchup, and like I said, it is the rematch. But Scott Collette, different story. I mean, last week when he came into the first round, qualified number 15, I believe, up against number 2 qualifier, didn't have lane choice, and reeled off that 4.55 to take out Tony when he smoked the tires. Right now, Scott Coletta looks better. The car's been going down the racetrack, running better numbers. Tony Schumacher, you can't count him out when you have Alan Johnson behind him, but this is going to be a good race.
Bill?
And you know, not to get ahead of ourselves, but when you take a look at the ladder as we just did, we have the possibility of having an unbelievable semifinal in the next round. The absolute iron of Top Fuel, the fastest and quickest cars that we have seen all season meeting in the semis. We'll know if that's going to happen after this round.
Oh, Scott goes airborne. Problem is, his sponsor is not the U.S. Air Force. The Army of One marches on. 4.47 seconds, 332 miles an hour. The performance is back in Tony Schumacher's Top Fueler.
Wow, I think Scott Collette and that team were going for it. He just picks the front end up as the clutch starts coming in right there. Look at that thing just start climbing skyward. Scott obviously knew he had to shut it off and watched Tony Schumacher just pull away.
And we've got action still going on in John Force's pit. Dave Reef.
Well, Marty, the first of the problems begin with an 8-minute delay at the scales. You can see some of the gas masks coming on back now. They went to warm this car just a moment ago. It coughed and sputtered 3 times. Very, very hard. Smoke coming out of the left bank. The team immediately divulged on this race car. They checked the plug wires. Nothing was crossed there. They checked the ignition, took the tops of the magnetos off. Nothing there. They even had the valve covers off to make sure all the valves were working. Everything appears to be fine. They do not know what caused that problem, but John Force is getting back inside of this race car now to try to warm this machine, try to get up there to race Tony Pedregon in round 2. Parker?
Dave, also problems with Bob Gilbertson's funny car. No warm-up for this team. While they were assembling the engine, they found a problem with the gasket that seals the supercharger to the top of the intake manifold. Everything came back apart. A new gasket was installed. Everything went back together. Bob Gilbertson said, gee, I hope it starts once we get up there, Marty.
Well, there is John getting the warm-up ready, and nope, it didn't go. Dave, what's going on?
Marty had started on alcohol, ran for about 5 seconds, maybe 6-7 seconds. Big cough, shut immediately off. They obviously have a deeper problem.
Wow, this could be Houston all over again. If you remember, that one turned into a real thrash, and they never did have the car ready. Now they're telling John to get back into the car. Meanwhile, while all this is going on in the pits, Top Fuel second round continues to go on out on the track. And here is the second Team Coletta car. This is only the second time all year where all 3 of the Coletta cars advanced to second round. And Grubnick, the #1 qualifier, has Scott Wise. And nope, Force can't get it fired again. Bill, you've got more?
Well, after that first round loss in Atlanta last week, John Force called his team together and had a big meeting and told them basically that he felt that it was his fault that the team had fallen off. He was too busy chasing deals, being a little distracted, and not really paying attention to the job ahead of him in the race car. The timing of this is really unbelievable.
More on that after this pair. Whoa! And Scott Wise in an upset. He hole shots the #1 qualifier out of here, and he's going to the semifinals for the 3rd time this year. His career best elapsed time of 4.54 seconds beats the quicker but losing 4:52. They both go 327 miles an hour, and that's a career best speed for Scott Wise as well. The Race Girl team is living large. Let's go back to Dave in the pits.
Well, they were working on the ignition some more. One more check of the valve covers. You see them coming off right now. No idea what is going on in this race car. I'll try to sneak around and get a quick word with John if I can. John popping out of the race car right now, still has the gas mask on. John, can you even speak to the frustration?
Yeah, I'm praying for rain. Got a motor malfunction here. They'll find it. Just we're out of time. And I want that shot at Tony, but can't do it without fixing it. But we'll see. I got 2 other Fords in.
And a whole bunch of fans that you just heard from cheering him on.
All right, so this is what NHRA Powerade Racing is all about. Look at this. We have action going on all over the place. Scott Wise's second hole shot win of 2004, and he lays it on David Grubnick.
Man, Scott Wise had 300ths of a second advantage off the starting line. You see him really fighting the car to keep it in the middle of the racetrack. He's way over by the wall. 0.8 of a second difference. There's a margin of victory right there.
Let's go back and take a look at super slow-mo in David Grubnick's case.
I mean, David really carried the front end on the launch. You see as the clutch coming in, kind of picks up that left front a little bit. Made a great run, 452, but unfortunately, he came up short.
Team Coletta now 0 for 2. There's the giant killer. Bill?
How do you do the voodoo that you do, man, on a hole shot, a career best victory over the low qualifier?
You know, we had this thing tuned up all weekend, but it just has been a weird weekend. We put the blower rotors in backwards for first round. Who would have ever thunk it? It drove away like an A fuel car, which I used to drive, and I'm like, there's no way we can win this. And I'm watching the belt come off of Herbert's car. And then to get over there next to the wall, I could not keep it off that wall. It was right. I feel like I was in a funny car. I had the wheel cranked all the way, and it's still over there. I feel like it's scrubbing the wall. But oh well. For the Race Girl team, we can still hang out there. I think we can make a run of 40 because these conditions are huge, but we're not going to step on ourselves.
Let's hustle back to Dave at Team Castro.
Still, Bill, no indication as to what the problem is. They've been cranking the car over, looking inside the blower, looking inside everything they can possibly think of without having to dismantle this car any further. Car's been back in the area. They're back in the pit area 60 minutes now. And remember, it all started with that 8-minute snafu at the scale, so they're begging for that extra time right now. But this is absolutely huge because they still have no idea what is causing this car to not start.
Already on track. Here is Corey McClenith in right lane. Doug Coletta in the left lane. Red light, Corey. Oh, and he is going to be so upset with himself because Doug strikes the tires and just shuts it off and coasts on out. Corey is 007 red and is out of here after winning last week. Parker?
Funny car champ Tony Pendergon is alone in the staging lanes. Next to him should be 12-time champ John Force, but Tony, he's back in the pits. He can't get his car started. I know you were looking forward to this matchup, but now, having gone faster than anyone else, it looks like you might get a solo.
Well, I'm not going to count him out yet. Old Force, he might be hiding in an outhouse somewhere and just jump out of it. But just trying to get it done for Quaker State and for Chevy. If he makes it, good. If not, I feel good about the changes we made, and hopefully we can kind of get this thing into 70. Even if it's on a single, we're going to have to get it done.
And when he first spoke with me, Marty, he was pumped up because he knew how big a match this was. And you can see he's not taking anything for granted.
And there's Corey Mack getting pushed around the corner. And this is probably going to be what we call a two-veiner for him. When you can tell when he's mad, as his veins just pop out of his head. And there's John Force as everybody is trying to figure out what is going on. Let's listen in.
I mean, this is really frustrating right here, trying to find it. It looks like it's probably an ignition problem, some kind of a timing problem, because the thing basically won't start. One of the hardest things to find when you do have that problem, especially when you press for time.
They're both the same.
That's off again in like 3. Can we put the valve covers back on?
The problem that was a couple of races ago at Houston was they had so many people working on the car that they forgot some things. But in this case, this has been their team doing the work, and they've got a problem they can't figure out.
You know, and let's talk about this strategy. Should Tony Pendergon get the chance to get a single, even if he's at the last minute, he can make adjustments to try for that national record to try to back it up.
Darrell Russell and Brandon Bernstein backing up, but let's go to the far end, Bill. You never foul up.
Yeah, you know, I've been not getting the job done on the tree here last couple races. I mean, even though we won, you know, I got left on every time last weekend but once, and you know, I've been hearing from a lot of people, and I pushed myself, and I shouldn't do it. I should run my own race like I always do. We've been fine.
Awesome. He fouled only once all of last year, so maybe this will be his one for 2004. Brandon Bernstein, we've talked about the fact he's fighting the flu, but he didn't seem to bother him in the last round. As you can see, his record for 2004. Darrell Russell, of course, has already moved past Clay Millican with his first round win. He's now up to 6th place in the points, and with Corey Mack out, he could be in 5th by the end of the day if he can keep going rounds. The win light goes to Bernstein. 4.52 seconds, 328 miles an hour. Darrell goes 456. Darrell had 2 100ths advantage off the starting line, and that's what made this so close. I mean, this was literally 19 1,000th of a second at the stripe.
Boy, you called that right. You saw Darrell Russell really, the car was really moving around. Look on the left side of your screen. I think that cost him a little bit of elapsed time. Remember, he only needed a couple hundredths, but man, there's the margin of victory at the other end, just under 2 hundredths of a second.
So let's take a look at the matchups in the semifinals, and Scott Wise will have the lane choice by a bunch over the tire-smoking Doug Coletta. And over in the other one, it'll be Tony Schumacher with his low of the round at 4.47 seconds, easily with the lane choice over B squared. We've got Funny Car when we come back, and there's John still in the pit area. That cannot spell good news for John Force fans. And back at Route 66 Raceway, they are still in the pit area, and it does not look good for John Force. Dave.
They looked a little deeper at the ignition system, Marty. Still have not found the problem. Talked with a couple of guys. That means it's probably something internal in the engine, potentially a camshaft. But what they're going to do is John Force is actually getting dressed right now. They're buttoning the car back up. They're going to take it up through the staging lanes into the starting line. If it starts and runs without backfiring, they're going to go ahead and run it the way it is.
All right, he is the 4th pair in this round of competition. Let's take a look at the funny car ladder presented by Lucas Oil. There he is. John has the lane choice if he can make it. Then it's Gary Dencham and a rematch with teammate Eric Medlin. This is the one we're getting ready for. Whit Bazemore and Tim Wilkerson, and Tony Bartone has the lane choice over Bob Gilbertson. So as we get to the line now, the body coming down, and a big opportunity for both these guys. Remember, Del Worsham, the points leader, is out of here. Whit is now only 28 markers behind. You get 20 for every round of racing that you progress. Wilkerson is 67 points behind in fourth.
It's a good matchup here. Tim Wilkerson got lane choice with his 484 to Whit's 485 in the previous round. Both lanes are very equal. If both cars stay stuck, this should be a good side-by-side run.
Whit Bazemore goes 4.76 seconds, 324 miles an hour. He was first off the line, first to the stripe. That thing was thundering. Let's go back to Dave Reef. What's going on, Dave?
Marty, they just put the body back on top of this car, and as I mentioned, John Force is currently putting on his gloves immediately here to our left. He will be strapping inside of the Castro car right now. As I mentioned, they're going to take the car up there. Still don't know what the problem is. If it starts and doesn't backfire, John is going to go ahead and stage the machine and see what happens when he hits the throttle. If it backfires at least one time, he says he will shut it off. Still don't know what the problem is, though.
And the one thing you have to remember, unless somebody from Tony Pedregon's camp is watching all of this as it's occurring in the pits, they won't know for sure whether Force is for real or not.
Well, they can't take a chance, because if he pulls the starting line, they make the effort to start. Unless they let John Force start first, I mean, you really can't make any adjustments. They got to make sure the car goes down the racetrack.
Let's go to Parker.
Tony Pedregon's team still in disbelief. This may be a new team, but remember, not only Tony and Dickie Venables came from John Force Racing, but half of this crew. They keep looking over their shoulders. I asked this man, Dickie Venables, the tuner for Tony Pedregon, if he would change his tune-up if John didn't show up. He gave it a long pause, a long thought, and said, I can't believe that they're not going to show up, but you know what? We might as well throw it all out on the table and try to establish that new speed record, Bill.
Bristol final, Atlanta win, 2-round wins today. 9-round wins in 3 races. You are the most consistent driver in this class in the span of 3 races.
Well, I think my lights have been consistent. The fact that the car and the team is getting results is due to the Matco Tools team, Lee Beard. They're just outstanding. You know, we had a hole out the first round. We got fortunate, but it's tough. And hey, all our friends on the internet got the blue bottle back. And I also want to say I'm glad that my fan on the internet is okay. Hippo, he was, we read that stuff once a week.
For more, log on to whitbazemore.com.
Thanks, Bill, as we're getting ready for the rematch from last week between teammates Gary Dencham and Eric Medlin. I've got an interesting statistic. Most of the time we don't get into the rounds of competition, but Gary Dencham is competing in his 400th round of competition, and that's spanning 22 years ago as John Force pulls up. His teammate, young Eric Medlin, is in his 17th.
A little bit of difference there, huh?
Well, the Castrol GTX Mustang is pulling into the lanes, and now the mind games begin, because I guarantee you, unless Tony's team sends somebody back there and is privy to the information, they aren't going to know for sure. So we get ready for Dencham Medlin. Let's get more from Bill.
Mike Dunn, you're the crew chief for Jimmy Prock. You're the crew chief, Jimmy Prock. You're the crew chief, John Medlin. What do you do with these 2 cars to give your team leader a little extra time to get that car straightened out?
Well, basically, what you would do is you would pull a Dale Earnhardt, and you would stop the car in the middle of the racetrack and let them pull them off, and that'll buy you a couple minutes of time. But that's basically about all they can really do.
There is John Medlin getting ready to send his son at over 320 miles an hour down the racetrack. Jimmy Prock, final adjustment on the AAA Auto Club Mustang of Gary Dencham. You're on board with Eric. And the win light again. Eric Medlin, 4.75 seconds, and that is even quicker than Whit ran just a few moments ago, 320 miles an hour. Gary Dencham was first off the line this time. This is a career best time for young Eric Medlin, 4.75 seconds. And now we look into the eyes of John Force.
John Force sitting there just wondering if this thing's going to start right now. And but I'll tell you what, he's done this enough. If it does start, he'll be ready.
Medlin sort of coasting on out. Remember, there was a time at Houston when there was a bit of an accusation that maybe one of the teammates was deliberately slowing down on the track to give the team more time. That's not the case here, as let's check in once again with Parker.
When John Force's car slid up side by side with Tony Pedregon, Tony's crew just shook their heads. They knew what this team was capable of because they used to be part of the team. The problem is Dickie Venables had added nitro to the mixture. He had changed the ignition timing, and just moments ago he dove back into the timing box to try to get some of that tune-up back out because they thought it was going to be a solo, but when John showed up, they knew that it was too good to be true.
Well, and what they don't know is what you at home are privy to, that John is basically trying to pull a bluff here. And we don't know for sure whether or not, they don't even know for sure whether they're going to be able to fire the car. Now remember, Bob Gilbertson had a problem, didn't get a warm-up, and it looks like he's having problems getting fired. That's Tony Bartone. Boy, the drama never stops here, Mike.
Yeah, you know, they're pushing the cars because of the threat of rain, you know, trying to get these guys up here, and that's when mistakes happen. Looks like they got the spark plug wires crossed, basically, probably when they went to start it. It backfired. Basically, number 3, number 5 cylinder were crossed, so they were firing at the wrong time.
Parker?
Remember, we told you earlier this team did not get a warm-up because of the problem they had with the gasket between the blower and the intake manifold. Well, you can see those ignition leads from the Magneto are color-coded. Usually the red goes to the right, but as you can see, they had those reversed in the hurry to try to get this car started, but now it's running.
Let's go to Bill.
Eric, I know you're happy about your run, a career best, but you used to be a mechanic with John. I know your heart's got to be with him right now.
Oh, it is, absolutely. My heart was with Dencham. You know, you don't want to race your teammates, but, you know, you're out here paid to do a job, and that's what we're doing, getting the Syntex Mustang and trying in the semis for now. And right now, these Goodyear tires are working good for us. We're still learning, but we got a long ways to go. And come on, John, I want to race Bob.
All right, while you saw the interview, Bob Gilbertson was ordered immediately to the line, and he had to do a quick dry hop to get the tires at least dry from running through the water.
Yeah, with no warm-up, wasn't able to see the clutch, wasn't able to do a burnout. Hopefully the tires are dry. If they're dry, he might have a chance of it, but if he didn't get all the water off the tire, that thing's just going to smoke tires to the head of the throttle.
Bartone coming off a career best in the last round. Well, it was more like a bucket Bronco, but he's going to go to his first semifinal in his short funny car career as Tony Bartone stops the clock at 5.50 seconds.
Yeah, I think Bob Gilbertson never had a chance not being able to do that burnout. You know, a dry hop after rolling through the water is just not going to get those tires up to temperature and probably not going to get all the water off them. Smoke tires at the right of the head of the throttle, and Tony Bartone, look at that thing carrying the front end. That's a bucking Bronco right there, but luckily for him, he got to the finish line first, and he's into the next round.
Well, we're going to find out if John can get the car fired.
Run on alcohol right now. They haven't turned the fuel on yet. Still run on alcohol. Austin Coyle scoring it in there. Now they bring the fuel on. Hello, boys.
Oh, it doesn't sound all that great, though.
Yeah, that's definitely missing. They're telling them to shut off right now.
Dave?
Yeah, big-time fuel coming out of the left side cylinder. Looks like they're going to go ahead and shut them down. It's a very good attempt by this team. If he can't all the way back in the water box, not going to shut him off now. Pulling into the burnout box.
Well, that's all right. Well, now that's interesting. John did a very, very long burnout. Remember, they didn't get a chance to warm it up. Maybe it's a psychological ploy.
That burnout didn't look bad. And the thing is, even if the thing was broke, say there was a problem internally, you still want to go up there and stage it because there's a chance that Tony could basically, you know, let's watch this burnout. I mean, there's not a whole lot wrong with this. I mean, it's smoked the tires nice. He's not into the throttle very hard. It's not like he's got to give it half throttle just to spin the tires. I mean, that looked pretty much normal right there.
Well, so far, so good. Let me bring up one quick point, though, guys, that I did want to get in. Remember, with the new oil down penalties and everything that's going on out there, Austin Coyle, one of his big concerns was this car coming up here and braking and starting to oil down this racetrack from the starting line or anywhere. They would lose 20 points. So there's that on their minds as well.
Yeah, he's already been penalized 10 points this year, which instead of being 44 behind Del Worsham right now. He could be 34.
A lot of fuel coming out of that left side of the motor there. Like there's, you know, and that could be an ignition problem. You could have a weak ignition to where it'll start, but it's just not going to run right. But obviously there's way too much, especially that number 3 cylinder one, which is the second one back. Should not have that much fuel. But sometimes that's just basically a plug nozzle that's allowing too much fuel to go into that engine that's not supposed to be going in there on an idle.
Tony Pedregon, lost in all this, has a chance for a new record. Here we go.
Oh, and Tony crosses the center line. And John Force lives to fight another day.
Exactly what Force's team needed to happen. Something to go wrong with Tony Pedregon's car. And Austin Coyle has got to have a Cheshire Cat smile. Dave.
Austin Coyle is walking back to the Ford Excursion. Absolutely unbelievable what's happened. Austin?
We don't have enough time to make the call.
He wants to go get that car fixed. They know they've got a second chance, Parker.
Dickie Venables, you thought you had a solo until that last minute, then it looked like you were going for the speed record, and then he crosses the center line.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened down there. We knew Force's guys would be there. They're a good team, and we were fully, expecting to race them. We just, I'm not sure what happened. We'll just have to look at the data and see.
Let's go up to Bill at the far end.
This track's been very good to John Force. Your 86th win. Austin's from Chicago, and the magic is alive.
It was dead in the pits. It was over. I was praying to God for rain. Not that he'd listen to me. I'm so screwed up. And then we said, do it. We fired it, and I couldn't believe it fired. They pulled the wire off the mag switch, and she lit. But she was not tuned. There was no clutch. Coyle said, you want to shut her off? I said, no. Let you see if he'll screw up. That's our only hope. And the old heat, she left. She went about 100 feet. Wasn't going nowhere, so I said, it's over. I stepped off the gas, and all this plastic's flying at me. There's miracles in America.
Can I get a witness?
Oh, and this is so important to this team. And as the crew comes down, let's listen to this. They are not going to waste much time. They are getting that car to get back. They don't want to have that delay like they had before. Hey, he's shaking hands with everybody from the Goodyear camp. Thanks for the good tires, guys. They got me down the track.
1,000 words or less. Tell us about that.
And now he'll talk to the crowd on the PA. Let's go back, take another look at this run.
I tell you, Tony was on a great run. Like John Force, I tell you what, did the right thing. You always stage the car. You never know what's going to happen. I've been in that situation. I never got lucky and got the window. Tony Pedregon was on a great run to half track, and boy, just past half track, that car made a left turn and went right across the starting line or the center line and allowed John Force to get the win. You see over here, basically cylinders out. That thing's dead. It's not going anywhere. John drove her down about as far as he knew it could go and said, okay, Tony's gone now. But then he watches him cross the center line, and I imagine he had a pretty big smile on his face when he saw them cones flying around.
Whew. And there is Tony Pedregon. And when he finds out that Force was coming to the line with a wounded car, he is just going to be even more sick than he is right now.
I don't think it would have made any difference. I think he was going to drive the same thing. They were going for a good run to get it down the racetrack, and it just got away from him just past half track.
So the national record is gone for this weekend for Tony Pedregon. The lane choice, Eric Medlin over the boss in the 1, and then Whit Bazemore over Tony Bartone. Pro Stock, when we come back. Back here at Route 66, we have just seen the cat and mouse come away with the mouse devouring the cat as Tony Pedregon crosses the center line. And that gives the win to John Force and his wounded Mustang. Let's go to the far end.
What an unbelievable turn of fortune, Tony Pedregon, but the tough deal goes to you.
Well, it does. It's a tough sport. I'm still trying to recall. I know the car left. It had the front end up. I don't know if it dropped a cylinder. Sometimes these cars just do what they want to do, and a lot of times you get the sensory override where your brain tells you you don't want to get off the throttle, or maybe your brain tells you you probably should, but your foot doesn't want to do it. So it happens fast in these cars. Everything is you do is a conditioned response. So Force, happy birthday. We won't let him get away with that again, and hopefully he can play ball. Let his cars race him.
Ooh. The crackling you hear is the sound of burning bridges, as Tony has just fired a salvo at John. All right, let's take a look at Pro Stock. And you got Steve Johns with the lane choice over Jason Line, Dave Conley over Jake Coughlin. Over on the other side, Greg Anderson and WJ have the lane choice there. In fact, it will be that last matchup that we're going to focus on first as father and son come to the line. They both won here at Chicago before. Kurt, as you're on board with him.
Kurt in the previous run just did not make a good pass in that first round. 688. He was basically, I think, like I said, I think he was a little bit underclutched. Running against his dad. The old man's got lane choice. Everybody in Pro Stock up to this point has chosen the left lane when they have had lane choice.
And there is Warren's 2004 so far. Right now, of all those in the top 7 in points, only Larry Morgan has been eliminated. So it gives you an idea. The cream has risen to the top in this particular event for the most part. Here we go. Warren Johnson takes the win, 6.85 seconds, 201 miles an hour. And WJ in his first semifinal since Pomona. And for Kurt, this is costly because being second in the points, he's already 250 markers behind, and Greg is still in competition. So as they roll on out, now let's go back and remind you of our top story in Funny Car, and that was this thrash by John Force and the team. They had absolutely no idea if this thing was absolutely going to start. They did no warm-up whatsoever, put the body down, and then managed to watch Tony Pedregon cross the center line and give the race right back to John. And there's the celebration as they know they got away with one. Tony's dejection. And let's check in with Dave Reef.
Well, the car has been back now 6 minutes. The blower's already come off of it. They are going to replace absolutely everything on this car, from the block to the ignition to the blower. Make sure they don't want to have a problem like they just did. John Force has been going 100 million miles an hour around this pit, making sure everybody is on the up and up. He wants to really congratulate his team for a yeoman's effort. About the only thing I can tell you, Bernie Federley took the spark plugs out, looked at him and said the number 4 cylinder never even hit one time. So the problem is obviously internal. It's something they'll analyze here before we head to Topeka.
Well, as the work continues, these guys, they all have to feel so good about themselves. And I hope you folks at home realize, I mean, just how special you were. Nobody at the track knew what was going on except you at home as this unfolded. And, boy, it was our pleasure to bring it to you because I didn't think they could pull it off, and there they are going to the semifinals. We still got the threatening skies, and as we come to the line now, Steve Johns looking for his second round win in Pro Stock, but he's going to have to go up against a guy who's gone to 4 semifinals in Jason Line, and this is going to be a tough road to go for old Stevie. Stevie's, you know, he's done well in the old Pro Stock truck days, but just coming into form now here in Pro Stock car. Great race, and Stevie was first off the line, but Jason goes 6.81 seconds to a 684, wins by about 200ths, and goes to his 5th semifinal this year. Now let's see if John has come back to earth. Dave?
Marty, how ironic that he should be wearing a born again shirt. John Force, you are born again, and if you could get in and say something to your team right now, what would you tell them?
Tell them I love them like I always do, because sometimes mistakes are made and sometimes parts just fail. But sometimes you got to make the call. And, you know, Coyle, he's always wanted to protect me. Bernie said, pull the mag switch, and the thing lit. And as long as it's running, we had a shot of Tony red lighting, but Tony's a good driver, so he ain't going to red light. That was a long shot. And crossing the center line was a fluke, and it was given back to us because it was over.
Meeting of the minds, the crew chiefs, maybe bent valves now, the leading candidate.
Well, I'm also going to be interested to see what John has to say when he hears what Tony had said about racing the next round. There is Jeg's update today. He is 1-0, And you can see in the last 3 races what he has done. He's got Dave Conley, which is a rematch from yesterday's King Demon Crown, and it was Conley taking the win there in the semifinals. Conley first off the line again. And for 2 days in a row, Conley puts Jaggy on the trailer. 6.83 seconds to a 6.86. Young Dave Conley, boy, he doesn't show much respect for the guy he calls his hero. He just buried him.
I think he just basically goes up there and does his job, and boy, what a good job he does. As you can watch from Jegs on board there. Basically, you know, 100th of a second advantage today, but boy, then that Bill Jenkins horsepower just pulled away on the other end and got a win.
So as we get ready for the next pair, that will be Greg Anderson and Ricky Smith.
Very interesting to watch here.
And for Greg Anderson, of course, he has continued his streak now of 26 straight races without losing in the first round. You know who holds the all-time record in Pro Stock? Bob Glidden at 40. And here's another piece of history as Greg is now up to 27-1 here in 2004. Just incredible. Ricky Smith has a tough task. He's going to have to try and take him out. He'll be over in that right lane. Dick Maskin right there, the man who turns the wrenches, provides the horsepower.
Well, you know, Tricky Ricky, I mean, that's his nickname because he's usually pretty good on the Christmas tree, but Greg has been mowing that thing down. You can't, I mean, hardly anybody can get an advantage on him anymore, so it's going to be very tough. If Greg just goes out and does his normal job, cuts a good light, Ricky Smith is not going to have a chance, let's be honest.
The starting line. Greg does it again. He was first off by 2 100ths. This was no contest. 6.82 seconds later, Greg Anderson is going to another semifinal, and he's just a couple more steps away from setting another page of history with 6 straight wins. Nobody's ever done that. Lane choice to Jason Line, and also, guess who? Greg Anderson. Stay with us. Pro Stock Bikes as we get ready. Take a look. Here's the lane choices quickly. Hines and Savoy on the left side. Over on the other, it is GT Tonglet and Sean Gannon. That's the first matchup that we have as we come out to the track with Sean Gannon in the left lane, Mike Berry over in the right lane. Boy, you want to talk about parity in a class. 3 winners in 3 races, 6 different finalists. First time in history it's ever happened in Pro Stock Bike. Taking their time getting in. There goes Berry. Big advantage. 4 100ths for Mike Berry. Does he have enough horses this time? No. Sean Gann runs around him. 7.27 seconds to a 7:32, but the margin of victory 1 100th at the line. Let's go to Parker.
Well, Marty, it's hard enough to see out of one of these funny car bodies during a bright day. We've got overcast, but for Tony Bartone, Tony, tell us about what happened quickly in that last run.
Well, it was a little bit bizarre. When I put the gas pedal down, the hose connected to the bottom of the clutch can came disconnected, so the filtration system wasn't working. And essentially, there was so much clutch dust in the car that it just blacked out the windshield. I couldn't see where I was going.
Imagine going almost 300 miles an hour, Marty, and not being able to see a thing.
Now, I don't want to imagine that at all, Parker, and tell Tony I'm glad he got it stopped very safely. Now, we get it ready for Craig Treble and Angel Savoy. Do you know that only twice in NHRA history have women won back-to-back national events? Angel Savoy and Karen Stouffer did it earlier this year. And back in 1982, Shirley Muldowney and Lucille Lee did it in Top Fuel. Oh, and Angel throwing it away. Treble goes 7.22 seconds, 182 miles an hour. Angel was red by 6 1,000th of a second. Just pulled the trigger a little too soon. So as she coasts on out, they'll analyze everything. She'll kick herself a few times and load it up and move on down the highway. Time now for our next pair of competitors, and it'll be one of the two Harley contingent. GT Tonklin against Michael Phillips. And of course, Michael coming off the 51st ever perfect light back in that round 1 matchup. And we already mentioned that he had one earlier last year in his career, so it's the second time that he has done it. GT, well, he's got that Harley horsepower, qualified number 2 right now.
Let's put that perfect light in perspective. Had he been 1,000th of a second quicker, he would have been going home because he would have red lighted.
And you've always been a big believer, you're basically taking a guess when you hit it perfect.
Not pro stock bike. These bikes react very quickly. In the fuel category, that's a different case. They don't react as quick as the bikes because the bikes are a lot lighter and they leave at a higher RPM, so they actually react quicker than a fuel car.
Not perfect this time, but he has the advantage off the starting line. And guess what? Michael Phillips wins it. 7.19 seconds. He drives around 184 miles an hour. And let's go to Bill.
Angel, yesterday we spoke to your crew chief, Mark Pizer, who said that mentally he had never seen you stronger. It was such a surprise to see you go 006 red.
It's not a surprise to me. It's dark out here. I'm trying to cut good lights because even though we have our awesome Army Suzuki, we still need to cut good lights. And you know what? I'm kind of glad it happened. I mean, I hate to say that I'm sorry for Matco Tools and Schumacher Racing that I'm glad that I lost, but this wind out here is really scary. And I've hit the wall here before, and I think the Lord just doesn't want me going on for this race. So I'm done, and I'm safe, and I'm going to Ohio.
A divine intervention, perhaps?
Well, here comes teammate Antron Brown to find out. And look at that left lane. I mean, they're lining that bike up towards the center line. And you got Andrew Hines basically doing the same thing over in the right lane. So the motorcycle's changing the groove a little. Oh, and Antron throws it away. So both Army bikes have gone red. His second foul of the year, and both of them went red, but first is worse. Andrew was 2 1,000th red. Antron was a full 10th of a second red. So that's why Andrew moves on. 7:12 and 187. That is low elapsed time of the race as well. So there's the lane choice with Andrew with a big advantage over Craig Treble. There's the other matchup with Michael Phillips having the lane choice. Back here at round 8 of the NHRA Powerade Drag Racing Series, it's time for semifinals of Top Fuel, and you're looking at Scott Wise. And let's show you that he has the lane choice in our Top Fuel ladder presented by Lucas Oil over Doug Coletta. And in the other matchup, it'll be number 1 and number 2 in the points. Number 1's got the lane choice, Tony Schumacher over B squared. Back out on the track, there is Doug's elapsed times, and he really dodged a bullet in that last round when Corey Mack went red.
Yeah, because he definitely had the thing way over center. They smoked the tires very early in the run, but fortunately for him that Corey did red light. Scott Wise had lane choice, took the right lane. That was the lane he was in the previous round when he didn't have lane choice. Most of the teams have been choosing the left-hand lane, but I'll tell you what, if you keep it in the middle of the groove, there's no difference in the lane.
And the win light to Doug Coletta. He drives around him because Scott had a bunch on him at the start. 4.46 seconds, 332 miles an hour. That's low elapsed time of the race. Wow.
Boy, Doug Coletta almost ran a 4.46 and got beat on a hole shot. Scott Wise did a great job. There's a margin of victory right there. 13 thousandths of a second. Boy, that was close.
All right, while we're having all this fun here, we've got a lot of action coming your way on SportsCenter at the Indianapolis 500 with John Kernan and last year's winner, Joe Farron. It's weeknights, 6:30 Eastern on ESPN2. For more, log on to ESPN.com. Let's check in. Parker, where are you?
Well, Marty, I'm on top of the grandstands on the south side of the racetrack. That's to driver's right. The wind has been howling 25 miles an hour and more all day long. How these grandstands affect the drivers and the riders, well, it's significant. The first half of the track is sheltered, but when they clear the edge of this grandstands, bang, they get hit by a big blast of wind, the fans that are up here with me, they say as soon as Tony Pedregon in that last run cleared these grandstands, he started moving left. And in fact, as we saw, got shoved all the way across the center line. Has a great effect on the drivers. John Force told me as he clears the grandstands, Marty, he's already turning to the right to compensate for it.
Well, as we can see by some of the spectators, it is quite brisk out there as we get ready now for Brandon Bernstein and Tony Schumacher. You've been in that situation. What's it like?
Well, a couple things have to happen. I mean, one, you have to have a very tight racetrack. What happens is, we notice on some of the replays, the front end's very light. Well, you get a light front end where it's a little bit hard to steer down track and then get that crosswind, boy, the driver's going to definitely have their hands full.
There you see the numbers that Brandon has to run to set a new national record in speed. Remember, no bonus points for speed, so they're not going to be worried about that. They want the points that go with beating Tony Schumacher. Let's quickly go to the far end.
Actually, the wind is from the backwash on Doug Kalitta's car, a 4.46.
That's beautiful. I tell you, this Maxwell's car, red line with us. I just can't say enough about, the effort we got going on here with Ron Tober and Connie. And, we got by that when it wasn't pretty. As far as the car went, I think I left a little to be desired on the start, but we'll get him on the next one. It's better.
A little slow, but he made it forward when that thing hooked up.
The horsepower saved his bacon, that's for sure. Here we go. Oh, the points championship has just narrowed. And Brandon Bernstein has backed up that new speed record. He goes 332 miles an hour, and he goes 4.46 with a 2, and he's got lane choice by 3 1/1000ths, a new career best elapsed time. And there is Kenny Bernstein and Dave Reef. It's all yours.
The king of speed. Your son is now the king of speed.
Hey, he just got under me, didn't he? Huh? That's cool. Great job by the Budweiser Lucas team. Can't say enough about it. That team over there is tough. Let me tell you, you come up there, you better have everything together, and they did a great job on both sides.
Not only quicker, but faster. He's got the speed record.
He gets me, too, both ways.
Yeah. There'll be some ribbon at the dinner table tonight, and the points margin has been cut to 43. Schumacher's lead over Bernstein, and the lane choice will be B-squareds in the final against Doug Kalitta. All right, back here at Route 66, it is the NHRA Power Drag Racing Series, and we're getting ready for the teammates Eric Medlin and John Force. First time these two have ever met in competition. Medlin's got the lane choice. He'll be on the left lane, and then it'll be Whit Basemore and Tony Bartone. And it's interesting, Bartone and Medlin both looking to go to their first finals. Of course, Basemore looking to go to his 40th. And John, well, how about number 171 in his career? Let's get more on this matchup. Dave Reef.
Well, Marty, earlier we heard Tony Pedregon talk about hoping John Force would play from a level playing field when racing Eric Medlin. I talked to both the drivers. That is indeed the case. Eric will go out and try to duplicate his mid-470 pass. John, no tuning data from the previous round. Austin Coyle will make a best guess. But, guys, I want to bring up something that just happened. Storyline we identified a few races ago. Eric Medlin and the burnout did not do a very good burnout at all.
All right, Mikey, we're on board with him.
Well, and that's what happened. He didn't smoke the tires. And generally, that builds a little extra heat in the clutch when you do that. And that could definitely be a problem. And if he smokes the tires, we're going to have all the conspiracy theorists on that. But that can definitely contribute by not doing a good burnout to a tire smoke situation. We'll see what happens.
Well, Tony Pedregon raised the Spectre. We'll find out in a matter of seconds. Well, John goes 4.72, 329 miles an hour. And take another look as we go on board.
Man, I don't know what happened here. I mean, it looked like he just kind of rolled off the light and tried to ease into the throttle, whacked it a couple times, and just said, "Here you go, John. You're in the final."
Well, that ET ties his national record that he set just last year. So, is this by the burnout? I mean, he was laid off the line. It looked like a bucket Bronco, and I'm sure the conspiracy theorists will be on this one. Well, there is the far end. Let's go to Bill.
With Brandon Bernstein, I just can't help but remember in 2001, you had the double-up victory with your dad here in the fall. 3 years later, a career best elapsed time and the national speed record.
Well, you know, I can't say enough about this Budweiser Lucas Oil team and Tim and Kim and those guys. I mean, this is their baby, and it's fun to drive when they go that fast, though. I mean, finish line comes so fast. It's just awesome. I mean, it's just such a rush, man. I just can't wait for the final.
And when was the last time we had 2 Top Fuel cars in the final round with identical 446s in the semis?
I think the answer to that one would be 0. We've had them quicker, but I don't think we've had identicals. All right, it's time for Whit Bazemore and Tony Bartone to come to the line. And as we mentioned, Bartone trying to get to his first ever final. And, well, you're going to have to run a national record type number to get lane choice in this one. As the backup continues, let's go to the far end.
John Force and teammate Eric Medlin are down here. John, by now you know the numbers. What a spectacular run.
Well, it's been there all week, and John Medlin and Jimmy Brock have been showing us with Dincham's car and Eric's car, and I saw Eric had a problem on the burnout. He jumped up on the tires that didn't smoke the tires, and my old Heaps, just trucked down through there, so, hey, we'll take it, but we both moved up in the points. See if we can pull this off in the final for Castro, Ford, Max, AAA, and these guys. We ain't done much lately. Don't forget.
Hey, let me jump in here. What happened to you at the start?
No, it had the whole clutch the whole time. The same thing happened to Dincham at Gainesville, I believe it was, or somewhere. But I thought, man, am I that stupid on the burnout? Then I would let the clutch out to back up, and it was in my lap. So, and I knew we were messed up. But you know, hey, I tried my best. It's starting line. You can't just hit it when it's like that because it's got too much. So I tried easing into it. And I was telling my dad, a little bit too big of a bull today.
Well, when he says the clutch was back in his lap, that means like all the levers were in, and he knew it was, if he get full throttle, it was going to smoke the tires.
Well, guess what? 4.7 in 1. Holy smokes. 333 miles an hour. That will be a new national record elapsed time. We'll check it to make sure that he has backed it up. He has. And a new speed record, 333 miles an hour. Beard owns them both, and so does Whit Bazemore.
Lee Beard turned the knobs, 333 miles an hour. Unbelievable, Lee.
It's just a fantastic facility here in Chicago. Wished every racetrack was like this, and we can really pour the coals to it here, Parker.
Well, I knew he was fired up. He didn't want to take Gary Selzy's record lightly. He wanted one for his own.
He wanted lane choice for the final.
Yeah, well, he got lane choice for the final, and look at those numbers. And remember, there's 20 bonus points. If he still holds on to that record at the end of this event, that's 20 more points. That would help make up for those 25 he lost in the oil down penalties just a few races ago. Woo.
Back at Route 66 Raceway in Joliet, Illinois, we just saw an explosive semifinal in funny car. I am with Bazemore. Friday night, you saw your teammate, the first to 330. You saw Tony Pedregon go quicker than anybody, and you just made fast work of both of them.
Well, I tell you what, it's Beard. You know, it's a credit to the entire Mecco Tools team, and actually Zippy and Selzy's Oakley Dodge team as well. You know, they may have shown us how to do a little speed, and then yesterday I think Zippy was checking out Beard's computer to see how to do some ET. But we're here just to win rounds, and it's great to see Bartone and that Dunn car start to have their luck turn a little bit. You guys ran well, and you know, we're not too excited yet. We've got to beat Force in the final. That's going to be tough.
He has established a new elapsed time record worth 20 points, which has helped him to take the points lead.
All right, let's take a look at Pro Stock and our ladder presented by Lucas Oil. Jason Line will have lane choice over Dave Conley in one semifinal, and it'll be Greg Anderson against his old teacher and boss, Warren Johnson. And we come to the line with Dave Conley and Jason Line already getting ready to pre-stage. Two of the new young stars of Pro Stock. Jason, a rookie at 34, but Conley only 21 years of age. Oh, and look at Conley cutting another great light. But Jason has the horsepower. 6.79 seconds, 202 miles an hour. That is low elapsed time of the race for Pro Stock. And Jason is going to the finals again.
Just a nice run by Jason Line. I mean, he was second off the line, but an 0.23 reaction time. That's 23 thousandths from perfect. Not a bad light. And then you couple that with a 6.79. That's a good pass.
All right, as Greg Anderson gets ready, he knows that his team car will be in the final. Now it's up to Warren Johnson to deny Greg a chance to meet up with him. And as we check the record books, there you see Greg is now up to 28-1. And he is continuing his march towards the history books. As he backs up, let's go to the far end with Bill.
Here's Jason Line, just about ready to get out his ride, and I'll be waiting right here with good news for him. Low ET of the race, 679, Jason, in another final round.
Can't be mad at that.
He's referring to you being the #1 qualifier this weekend.
Cool. It's been an awesome weekend so far. We just need Greg to get in the final, and we'll have a good race for the end.
Like everything else with this team, we won't have to wait long to find out.
Greg trying to go to his 6th straight final. Of course, for Warren Johnson, we documented his problems earlier. There's Kurt Johnson. He's hoping that, Dad can do something because Kurt's losing ground in the points championship. KJ second in the points right now by 269. And it's 20 points per round. That gives you an idea of the domination of Greg Anderson. For the 3rd time this year, it is going to be an all Ken Black final, as this team is just really unstoppable. 6.82 on the clock, 201 miles an hour for Greg, and he is 1 lap away from history, as he will try and win his 6th straight race. Nobody's ever done that in one single season. The all-time record is 9 over 2 years, and guess who holds that? Bob Glidden. And, well, Jason Line's going to have the lane choice over the boss. And there is Jason waiting for him as we're getting ready for Pro Stock Bike. And down on the starting line, we're already getting set for Sean Gann and Michael Phillips. We're guaranteed of having a new Pro Stock Bike winner at this particular event because everybody else that's won here before is gone. It's Andrew Hines with lane choice in one of the semifinals. And it is Michael Phillips in the other.
Talk about it.
Michael Phillips with a slight advantage over Gann. And the win like to Sean, though. Boy, he came and drove around him. They run identical 727s, 184 miles an hour, the winning speed for Sean Gann as Gann moves into the finals.
Look at that, 15/10,000th of a second difference. That's pretty close.
And just that quickly, we are getting ready for the next pair, which will be Andrew Hines and Craig Treble. Parker, you got more?
Yes, Marty, as I talked about earlier, that crosswind, a big concern for these riders. To compensate, they changed the alignment of that big rear tire. Craig Treble told me they went too far with that adjustment on the last run, and he nearly made a right-hand turn at the hit of the throttle. So hopefully they've got that worked out.
All right, Craig Treble has lights getting back on this old Suzuki. It's a 98 version that he borrowed last year. I think now he's bought the thing, and he is having great success with this machine. And I mean, he's tried several different chassis in the interim. And here we go. Well, a couple of 009 light and a 709 elapsed time. That is a track record, and it is certainly low for the race. And you can't wonder why Andrew had so much air to spare winning this one.
Doesn't get much better than that. But a 009 reaction time and then a 709 elapsed time, and you're going to win the majority of your races. Look at this, hanging on here, Andrew Hines. Not much wrong with this ride. Straight down the middle of the parkway into the final round.
And there you see the matchups for the final. Andrew Hines will have the lane choice as Sean Gann has now moved into third place in the points. Bill?
Well, Sean Gann is carrying the hopes of Suzuki fans all over the world into this final round, but a 7:27 to what you just saw Andrew do. You going to have enough?
Man, I don't know about that. We're just trying to collect rounds, and, you know, if they finish 1 and 2 in the championship, their team put together a monster, and they come out here and it's showing. So that's what Mac Tools has got to try and wrench up for me.
Pretty much the opinion of all the Suzuki riders. 7:09, Andrew. You just hammered everybody.
Man, that pass was, it actually wasn't the best. I kind of went left, went right. I just went down the track, and I knew my brother's bike was in the other lane with Craig Trouble riding it, and I just wanted to do everything I could to win. I guess I had a 009 light, ran an 09 track record. This bike's just getting faster and faster by the ride, and we'll see what we have for the final.
I hope Sean Gann didn't hear that.
Yeah, that is the Suzuki that Matt Hines used to ride, and he sold it now to Craig Treble. Finals when we come back. All right, let's get you caught up if you have just tuned in because you have missed a record-setting day. Here is Whit Bazemore, closest to you in funny car. Second time in his career he's held the national ET record, 4.713 seconds. He went 333 miles an hour. He could back that up for a new speed mark in the final. He's got to go 329 and some high change. In Top Fuel, Brandon Bernstein, the new king of speed. He goes 333.41 miles an hour and backed it up on this run, 332, and now he is quicker and faster than Father Kenny. And we also want to give you our Castrol startup of the day. That's the best reaction times. And in Pro Stock Bike, you can't get any better than Michael Phillips with his second career perfect light. Dave Conley in Pro Stock, 006. Bob Vandergrift, an 033, which is very good in Top Fuel. And Whit Bazemore, 070, as we're ready for Sean Gann right there in the left lane against Andrew Hines. And this is the Pro Stock Bike final. There is Sean's road to the final. He's trying to become the first Suzuki rider to win that isn't female, because the other two have been Karen Stouffer and Angel Savoie, and the other race went to the guy in the right lane. And he's on the V-Rod, the Harley, and Andrew Hines looking for his second career win. Oh, and Andrew goes red. Oh, and then throws away a 7:17, and Sean Gann, 7.24 seconds, 185 miles an hour, picks up his third career win as he was in the finals last week and got beat by Angel. This week he comes back to take the win.
Wow, that's a pretty big upset. I mean, when you got a bike that just ran 7:09 the previous round, I don't know if I would be up there trying to cut the tree that close, but Andrew Hines did. Unfortunately for him, he missed on it and gave that man right there, Sean Gann, the win. Great job.
Well, and it's going to give Sean Gann a jump because he moves ahead of GT Tonglet into second place in the points, and you can hear him underneath the helmet as he is loving it, as he has won for the first time in a year. Let's go to Bill.
Man, I am paralyzed with shock. He fouls out, and you win the race. Nobody thought you could.
You get it. You know what I'm saying? Go to church. God will give it to you if you pray for it. Mac Tools, Airtech, Worldwide Bearing, Technicoat companies, man, they all helped me so much. And my dad is getting ready to come down here, and we getting ready to get a fat steak. And I'm taking Andrew out with me.
Let's go to Dave.
Andrew, 035 red precedent, a little too much.
Man, I don't know what happened out there. Just the tree's real fast today. I think I actually red lit against Antron too, but his light was worse. I just had a 009 against Craig, and man, his lights are quick out here. I don't know what I ran. I just started short shifting because I saw Gann's red light on. But congrats to him. They got a good team over there. We're going to come back and see what's going on.
All right, as we turn our focus to another page of potential history, no Pro Stock driver has ever won 6 straight races in a single season. The legendary Bob Glidden did 9 in a row over 2 years, but 5 has been the most. Parker?
Artie, Greg Anderson was late coming to the start line as he was getting his helmet and gloves on. Crewman putting the dashboard in. He spent every moment of that turnaround working on his Pontiac Grand Am because they've got a problem they can't identify. He's got the best of all the parts, but the car is getting slower and slower. He told me he was nearly ready to concede this run to Jason Line, but not yet.
And there is Jason's road to the final, and you look at the performance, and Jason has had the better of it today in the elapsed time numbers, there is Greg's now updated round record as he is 29-1. And if he can get past his teammate, as you look at the best elapsed times, it will be 6 wins in a row. Unbelievable. Here we go. Oh, and Anderson gives it away. A 6:82 to a 6:84, so Greg gives away the better elapsed time. Look at Jason's reaction time, 0:04. But wow, Line, the first new Pro Stock car winner in this class since Troy Coughlin at Maple Grove in 2001.
Wow, big surprise here. Greg Anderson might have thrown him off having all those problems coming up the starting line. Maybe not quite as focused. He knew he was going to have to get a good light against Jason because, like you said, Marty, Jason had the better car. But I'll tell you what, he just pushed the tree a little bit too much, and Jason Line gets his first win. Good job.
And we're going to send it to Bill.
My head is spinning around. 2 final rounds, 2 red lights, 2 favorites losing to guys who we felt had no shot whatsoever. Jason Line about to get out of the car. Jason, did you know that Greg fouled out?
I saw it.
And what was the problem he was having with his car? Do you think that affected him at all?
I don't know. I think he probably felt a little under the gun because this car was running faster all weekend. So that run didn't feel very good to me, though. How fast was it?
You really don't want to know. You just won your first national event in Pro Stock.
I do want to know, actually.
684.
84? That didn't feel quite right.
Spoken like a true mechanic.
All right, take a look. It's 289 markers back to Kurt, and Jason is closing in on KJ for second place in the points championship. Dave Reed.
Greg Anderson. Oops.
That was a screw up there. That absolutely looked like a rookie screw up, you know. Sometimes when you race your buddies, you get a little too excited, and I absolutely got too excited, and I double clutched it. It was time to go, and it wasn't time to go, and give him the race. It would have been a great race. I'm sorry I screwed up, but you know what? He's earned it today. He's run great all weekend, and I'm just very proud of him. I screwed up, but the bottom line is he may have whipped my butt anyway. I don't know, but he didn't screw up. I did. He won the race.
Competition's been waiting for that, but unfortunately it was his teammate he screwed up against.
And as we come back to the starting line, here is Whit Basemore's road to the final. This will be the 9th time that he and John Force have met in finals. John has won 6 of the prior 8 meetings. And remember, Whit has just set the new elapsed time record, taking it away from John. Parker?
Marty, there is a lot of pride on the line. Lee Beard told me he was tired of Whit's teammate Barry Selzy getting the attention for being the first over 330. Tony Pendragon getting the attention for going 331. And of course, the man in the other lane, John Force. Well, nothing gets this team revved up more than that car. Whit's concern is, he said, John every once in a while can cut a great light. And Whit's afraid that today might be the day, so he's on edge as well.
Well, we'll find out. Watch how deep they try and stage the cars, because I have a feeling John's going to take a bite.
Yeah, he usually does. In the final round of Bristol, he took a little bit of a shot at the tree, got a great reaction time. Let's see what happens this time.
Oh, Britt's in trouble. And Force has done it again. 4.75 seconds, 325 miles an hour. So John gets the win, Whit gets the record. And wow, did they pulled one out of the hat today, Parker.
They really did. We are all going with you, Austin Coyle, to the casinos immediately after this.
I don't blame you one bit. We for sure cashed in some luck chips here. I mean, that second round we come up here, the motor was dead. It had a problem, and we just figured we'd fake it, and we were fortunate enough to get a free gift. And then after that, the old heap run pretty good, and here we are.
They broke those floodgates down at Bristol, and now the wins are coming, Marty.
Look at John getting out, and he has moved into second place in the points championship. In fact, let's show you, it's 16 markers. Whit picks up that extra 20. That's the difference right now for setting the new national elapsed time record. Dale Worsham's been bumped down to third.
Well, watch the old heap in the right-hand lane. Not too much wrong with that. 475 right down the track. I'm sure Lee Beard was probably trying to run the same thing he ran the previous run, but unfortunately that thing spun the tires very early, and all Wick could do was watch John Force take away the win.
There he is. Let's go to Bill.
God say anything to you before that round?
Yeah, I said, don't be stupid up here and do something stupid. Bay's got the record. Both ends, congratulations to him. But bottom line, we came what we did, and that was to win Chicago. This one's for my boys, Austin Coyle, his wife at home, and all the ones that have been rooting for us. Lisa supports him a lot, and it's great, and he's been under a lot of pressure, and I was very proud of him and Brandon today. But we worked as a team. She came out here for Castle Ford Max. She done what she did. I don't know what kind of numbers she run. Roof hatch opened just like that. Right when I was staging, the roof hatch went open. I thought, don't break the focus here. The old heap, she just trucked right down through there. So for MBNA and everybody bumper to bumper, I'm excited. I'm excited. And really, that's just the bottom line.
I think he just took his hat off to Austin Coyle.
Austin Coyle.
Right. Thanks as we get ready now for the last race of the day. And I got to be honest with you, I didn't think we'd get this race in with the way the weather was playing havoc with us, but here we go with Doug Coletta and Brandon Bernstein. Bernstein is 5 for 5 in finals. There he is with his new national record top speed at 3:33. Parker.
Brandon Bernstein, remember, had the flu, did not look good at the beginning of the day. Adrenaline helped pick him up. I just checked in with him. He is not feeling well at all, Marty.
Well, Bernstein has been beaten for the first time in a final. And look at Doug Coletta, 4.420, 328 miles an hour. And Doug Coletta not only wins the race, he does it in style, as he doesn't have quite enough to back up a national record. But watch what happens to Brandon.
Man, Brandon Bernstein, they were going for it. Watch the front end come up here. But it's high, no wheelie bar. Oops, I better get out of it. He got out of it just in time. But I'll tell you what can you say about Doug Coletta? 442, he's run 283 miles per hour at the half track. That tells you what kind of horsepower and what kind of track they were on this weekend.
Here are the new points as Brandon Bernstein only 43 behind Tony Schumacher, but Doug Coletta has closed to within just 5 rounds of racing. We can tell you the 442, he's just a touch shy of having a national ET record. Bill?
All right. We just saw the quickest elapsed time in Top Fuel history, 4:42.0. And you win the race, Doug Coletta.
I tell you what, hands off to this whole Mac Tools team, Connie and Ron, and everybody's worked real hard at getting this thing where we're at today. So just hats off to them. And, the car, he got right to the finish line and threw the bell off, and I thought he was going to go around me. But, everybody at Redline and Champion and, Technico guys, Fisher Honda, appreciate the support.
Let's go to Dave Reef.
Down with a disappointed Whit Bazemore, who does have 20 extra points for the national record. Also leads the points, just missing that trophy.
Yeah, and honestly, that trophy is the only reason we came here. The better the team is, the better your results, the better you are, the more expectations you have, obviously, and the harder it is. And that's why, when you see a John Force, you have to respect them, because even though they've made it look easy a lot of times, it's never easy, and it's tough. And the better you are, the harder it is to live up to your own expectations.
Game's on.
And the championship chase is far from over. Now let's go back to Top Fuel one more time. Take a look at Brandon. Remember, no wheelie bar. If he keeps pressing it, and the 25-mile-an-hour crosswind, he could have easily had a blowover here. Wow. Stay with us. We'll close things out here at Route 66 at a very disappointed Brandon Bernstein at the far end of the racetrack.
Still a lot of things for Brandon Bernstein to learn, and I think you just learned about how high a Top Fuel car can go without going over.
Yeah, you betcha. This Budweiser Lucas Oil car, left so hard, had the front end up a little bit, and then it laid it back down, and then it seemed like about half track when the clutch came in and everything. Man, it just picked the front end up, and it was going. I mean, if I would have stayed in it, it definitely would have blown over. So, hey, I can't say enough about the team. The team did a great job this weekend. Tim and Kim, all the guys, they worked their butts off, and it's hot and humid out here, and it's just tough. But hey, we gained a little bit of points, and we'll go to the next one.
And you see our schedule for next week, qualifying on Saturday, and then our final eliminations at 4 Eastern. For Mike Dunn, Bill Stevens, Dave Reed, Parker Johnson, and our entire ESPN2 crew, I'm Marty Reed. World Series of Poker's coming up next. We'll see you next time on NHRA Powerade Drag Racing. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For more, log on to ESPN.com. We'll see you next week from Topeka. So long, everybody.